How's it going, everybody? And welcome to the Liberty Bowl. It is, of course, Friday. And as you know, every Friday we come together here. We talk about the news, talk about current events going down in the culture, and basically sit here and opine over the fall of Western civilization. Right. We also like to, unwind. It's been a long week, and we all kind of just hang out. Yeah, smoke a little bit, uh, and just I guess catch up on shit. So we got a couple good things, a couple things going on this week. We have, of course, a huge week for SCOTUS. All right, we have some huge news in the Trump immunity case, basically the presidential immunity case. We have some huge news in that. We also have some of their opinions on the homeless question as to basically whether or not homelessness can be considered, I guess, an offense, right? Or basically whether or not people have a right to sleep and live in public, right? So we'll be discussing that. We also got pro-Palestine riots blowing up all over the damn country at colleges all over the place. I mean, there's even some down here in Tucson at the University of Arizona. Not too big though. I mean, I think I saw a news report that said like more than 50 people attended the pro-Palestine protest at the University of Arizona. It's like 50 motherfuckers came out. Like, whatever. Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully, these young folks at the University of Arizona have better things to do with their time, better ways to occupy their minds, right? But other than that, all over the damn place, in Texas, Pennsylvania, all over the damn country, these pro-Palestine um, uh, riots, essentially. I mean, they are, I guess, in a sense, violent in the way that they disrupt. The regular flow of activity. Basically, they're blocking people based off their race. So I mean, their ethnicity, their religious beliefs, not even necessarily race. I don't know. Depending on how you want to go into the whole ethno-Jewish thing, I don't know. Either way, but I mean, essentially, it's they're acts of terrorism in a sense. They are basically disrupting the regular flow of schoolwork and the regular flow of this taxpayer funded public institutions, right? And they're it's basically terrorism, right? We also have the Senate went ahead and passed a $95 billion foreign aid package, which was of course passed in the House last week, right? uh, Again, just more war escalations, more money going overseas, more of your tax dollars going overseas to secure borders that really we have nothing to do with the overwhelming majority of Americans. And that's basically where your money's going to. Meanwhile, inflation continues to hike up higher and higher and higher. Well, not higher and higher and higher, but basically stagnate at a high rate. Meanwhile, I mean, things like unemployment, it's bad out there. The economy, it's a bloodbath right now. To steal a term from the old Donald J. Trumps, right? It's a bloodbath. We also have quite a bit of news coming out of my home state here of Arizona. Of course, this week they went ahead and finally repealed the Arizona abortion ban, which essentially puts the 15-week law in place. Of course, we already basically talked about what this whole thing was. We already kind of broke down essentially how it was going to go. That it was basically just a major political rallying point for the Democrat Party, right? That's really all it was. Really, the Republican legislature had already agreed to a 15-week ban previously, but basically all that was needed was to repeal that 1864 ban, right? We'll talk about a little bit about what went down in the legislature on that and what was basically the holdup on everything. We also got Katie Hobbs basically, I guess saying, she is the queen of vetoes, right? She is the queen of vetoes. She's not really good at explaining stuff. She basically everything is yeah, that's about the gist of what you're gonna end up getting from her. But we do get a lot of vetoes, and she very very rarely actually passes anything. She even vetoes a whole bunch of stuff that comes through on a bipartisan level, such as squatters' rights. That one, the basically the not squatters' rights, the landlord rights to basically evict squatters on site for the most part. She vetoed that. She vetoed another one that basically defined, who can use women's showers at schools. She vetoed that one. I mean, she's just on a roll, right? We also got the Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays going ahead and basically, as the Democrats are starting to realize that the whole political lawfare, the whole weaponization of the Department of Justice, everything that they've been doing over the past 4 fucking years straight, it's working against them, right? It's doing nothing more than strengthening Donald Trump's base. Basically, they're making a martyr out of the man, and just as they're starting to realize this, Chris Mays has to go, hold my beer. All right. So she basically indicted, was it 18 and 19 Trump, associates, Trump allies here in Arizona, including, sitting state senators, all kinds of people. Right. We're going to be getting into that madness here in a little bit. We also got Australia basically trying to censor the internet, trying to unilaterally control the internet because of so-called disinformation and videos that have been going viral. I'm sure you guys have all seen it by now. The I guess a priest, the clergy person that was stabbed over there by a apparent Islamic extremist, right? So apparently the government of Australia is trying to get Elon Musk to censor the video, basically. That, as well as they're upset that there's a basically what they call disinformation, other people would call memes, right? And so basically it's the Australian war against memes, right? We'll be talking about that tonight as well. But anyway, it's been a long week, man. Let's go ahead and light one up, and then we'll go ahead and start celebrating. I guess probably shouldn't preemptively celebrate, but we'll go ahead and talk about what the I guess the playing field is looking like over there in SCOTUS in terms of the Trump presidential immunity case, right? So basically, what this case is it's whether or not presidents are immune for actions taken that may be in a technical sense illegal, but if they're acting under official presidential duties, right? So basically things like I don't know, extrajudicial drone strikes on American citizens in foreign countries that we're not actually at war with. I don't know, a whole bunch of different stuff. Presidents commit crimes that, like, on a daily basis. That's pretty much what the job of president is. I mean, the United States government is at its essence a gigantic gang, and basically, of course, the way that you keep people in line is you gotta enforce the law, right? So the question as to whether or not presidents are immune from actions taken under official duties as president, that is basically coming before the Supreme Court right now, and basically the decision is going to decide whether or not the president actually means anything. It's going to decide whether we are a representative republic or whether we are just a bought and paid for unelected bureaucracy, right? So let's go ahead and actually I gotta share the page real quick. Got a lot of tabs, but let's go ahead and share this. So Supreme Court appears likely to side with Trump on some presidential immunity. Right. So that's the other thing, is basically the partial immunity. So what I'm basically getting is that the partial immunity would basically be what it generally already prescribes in the Constitution, that basically a president needs to be impeached in the Congress and then convicted in the Senate in order for charges to be levied against him, right, while he's acting within his official duties as president. So it's basically what the middle ground is, and it seemed kind of like what the SCOTUS is seeming to lean toward right now. But the Supreme Court on Thursday appeared skeptical of a ruling by a federal appeals court that rejected former President Donald Trump's claims that he has absolute immunity from criminal charges based on his official acts as president. During more than 2.5 hours of oral argument, some of the court's conservative justices expressed concern about the prospect that if former presidents do not have immunity, federal criminal laws could be used to target political opponents. However, the justices left open the prospect that Trump's trial in Washington, D.C. could still go forward because the charges against him rest on his private rather than his official conduct. However, the timing of the court's eventual opinion and the resulting trial remains unclear, leaving open the possibility that the court's decision could push Trump's trial past the November election. Right, so that's the big thing, is the November election. That's the main thing that they're shooting for. Basically, if it's even going to, it doesn't matter what the actual decision is, right? If it puts it past November, the Democrats are fucked. They're up shit's creek without a paddle, right? And then after the November election, if Trump is elected president, which of course all the polls are pointing to right now. Of course, we don't trust polls here, but if he becomes president, and then afterward they decide that, yep, presidents are immune for their official duties as president, well, Trump is going to be able to go ahead and try a whole lot of people for, bringing forth frivolous lawsuits, basically all of the stuff that they've been doing over the last 4 years to weaponize the Department of Justice. Trump could basically go in and clean house. You could basically go in there and heads can roll, right? And that's ultimately what's going to save this country. That, and basically, like I say, I think the ultimate thing that's going to basically save this country, restore legitimacy to the government, and basically clear Trump's name even, would be to go in there and reveal a lot of the bullshit that our government does. A lot of the bullshit that our government tries to hide, I mean, of course, a lot of the stuff, I understand there are certain things that need to be kept secret, right? I could conceive that in my mind, right? I could understand that, certain things the public just ain't ready to know. But a lot of it, the public really kind of already knows and or suspects, and basically it's all just the public gets lied to in their face on a daily basis by our government. And basically, if they could vindicate some of the I guess thoughts, conspiracies, what have you, I think that could go a long way with like I say, re-legitimizing the government and bringing us back to some sort of a new normal, right? A new normal. Punctuated equilibrium, guys. But anyway, Trump was indicted in August 2023 on 4 counts arising from special counsel Jack Smith's investigation into the January 6, 2021 attacks on the U.S. Capitol, alleging that he conspired to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Trump asked U.S. District Judge Tanya Chitkin to throw out the charges against him, arguing that he could not be held criminally liable for his official acts even after leaving office. Chitkin denied Trump's request, and in February, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit upheld the ruling. Trump went to the Supreme Court, which agreed in late February to weigh in. Trump's trial was originally scheduled for March 4th, is now on hold, waiting for the Supreme Court's decision. Right. So again, if it goes past November, it doesn't even matter what the decision is, other than basically deciding on what the role of president is, whether or not it's ceremonial, and we are just a pure bureaucracy, pure unelected bureaucracy, and the presidential role is just ceremonial, or whether the president is the president. All right. So Chitkin denied Trump's request, and in February, U.S. Court of Appeals. Okay, I read the part. Representing Trump, John Sawyer told the justices that without presidential immunity from criminal charges, the presidency, as we know it, will be changed. The looming threat, he contended, will destroy presidential decision-making precisely when the president needs to be bold. And the impact of the court's decision, he suggested, will have an impact far beyond Trump's case. He pointed to the prospect, for example, that President Joe Biden could be charged with unlawfully inducing immigrants to enter the United States illegally through his border control policies, right? Yeah, that's another one. I mean, yeah, fucking Trump could basically, then go after his predecessor, or it doesn't even matter. I mean, really, that basically him letting all those people in, that's, I mean, kind of the least of the fucking shit. We have an entire fucking treasure trove of shit that could be brought up against Joe Biden, but it's ultimately not going to, right? Right down to the business dealings with his son, the selling of the Biden name. In essence, of course, the Biden name is ultimately tied to Joe Biden's role as vice president at the time, right? So, of course, he would not have been acting within his official duties at the time. That is purely basically the Biden crime family, business model. But so anyway, ultimately, that's why it's kind of a long shot, never gonna motherfucking happen, right? So Michael Dreeben, a lawyer from Smith's office, represented the United States. He emphasized that the Supreme Court has never recognized absolute criminal immunity for any public official. Trump, he contended, seeks permanent criminal immunity for a president's official acts unless he has first been impeached and convicted by the Senate. Several justices pressed Sauer on how to distinguish official acts for which a former president would enjoy immunity under this theory from private acts for which he could still face criminal charges, right? So basically that's the distinction, right? So basically your border policies that undermine the security of this nation, that would be considered an official act, right? An act under your official title as presidency, Mr. Biden. However, selling influence while you were a vice president through means of your son. I mean, down to the Victor Shokin thing, basically getting the prosecutor fired. Basically, I told him if you don't get the prosecutor fired, you're not getting the $1 billion. That that straight quid pro quo act that you did while you were vice president. That wouldn't count either. But either way, let me see. Several justices from official acts against treasurers. Okay, Chief Justice Roberts asked Sawyer to about a scenario involving a president's official act appointing an ambassador that he does in exchange for a bribe. When Sawyer conceded that accepting a bribe is private conduct, Roberts urged Sawyer to explain how the boundary between an official act and a private one would come into play. Prosecutors could bring charges against the former president for accepting $1 million, Robert queried, but they can't say what it's for. Justice Elena Kagan lobbied a series of examples, some taken from the indictment, some taken from the indictment at Sauer, and asked him to identify them as involving private or official conduct. Sauer agreed that some, like signing a form affirming false election allegations, would be private. I don't see how that'd be private. I mean, ultimately, we'll get into that in the Arizona fake electors scheme, right? But like signing form affirming false election allegations would be private, but he assessed that others, like calling the chair of the Republican Party, would be official. When he asked whether ordering the military to stage a coup so that the president could remain in office was private or official, Sauer suggested that it would depend on the circumstances, prompting Kagan to say, "That sure sounds bad, doesn't it?" Right? Sure does. Justice Neil Gorsuch observes that the concession that a former president could be prosecuted for his private conduct, the two sides had found some common ground. He noted that the D.C. Circuit had expressed some views about how to separate private and official conduct, including the possibility of further proceedings to do so. But when Roberts asked Sauer about the effect of that confession, and Sauer suggested that the Supreme Court should send the case back to the lower court to determine what conduct is official and what conduct is private, Roberts retorted that without the official conduct, it would be like a one-legged stool. It'd be like a one-legged stool. Dreeben contended that even if presidents have immunity for their official acts, in this case, the federal government could still introduce evidence of Trump's interactions with the Department of Justice, but he maintained that there was enough private conduct to allow the charges against Trump to go forward even under that standard. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson acknowledged that distinguishing between official and private conduct might sometimes pose a difficult line drawing problem. But if a president's official acts are not entitled to absolute immunity, then she suggested the problem was eliminated. Why, she asked, would the president not be required to follow the law when performing his official acts? Justice Brett Kavanaugh appeared sympathetic to the former president's argument that criminal statutes do not apply to the president unless they say so specifically. He told Dreeben that it's a serious constitutional question whether a criminal statute can apply to the president's criminal acts. Justice Amy Coney Barrett was less persuaded by this argument. She observed that if a president who orders a coup is impeached and convicted by the Senate by ordering the coup is determined to be part of his official conduct, he would not be prosecuted after leaving office under Trump's theory if there were not a statute that explicitly applied to the president. So Dreeben sought to assuage some of the justice's concerns by suggesting that although former presidents should not have absolute immunity from criminal charges relating to their official acts, there are some core constitutional powers of the presidency, such as the powers to pardon, veto, make appointments, and recognize foreign governments, that are entitled to special protection. Justice Samuel Alito, however, was skeptical, noting that in contrast with immunity, the issue of special protection would have to be litigated at a trial and may involve great expenses, as well as the possibility that the former president, who is currently both running for office and on trial in a Manhattan courtroom, might not be able to engage in other activities. And more broadly, both Gorsuch and Kavanaugh worried aloud about the wider impact of the court's decision, telling Dreeben that the justices were writing a rule for the ages, and that he was not concerned about this case as much as future ones. Gorsuch, who, like Kavanaugh, was nominated to the court by Trump, expressed concern about the use of the law to target political opponents, emphasizing that virtually all first-term presidents would be concerned about being reelected. He pressed Dreeben on whether this theory would include a consideration of a president's motives. All right, so motives, that's the difficult one to prove, right? It's really kind of difficult to prove whether or not a president thought that what he was doing would be part of his official duties, or whether or not it was basically him trying to push for power, right? Especially in sort of a megalomaniac type mindsets as well too. It really kind of I don't know, I guess would change your view on things, right? Your perception of whether or not what you're doing is for the country, for the good of all of the people, as is your official duty as president, or whether it's just for you to remain within your official duties as president. Let's see. Dreeben assured Gorsuch that his theory would not sweep in ordinary presidential conduct. Wanting to get reelected is not an illegal motive, Dreeben said. But Kavanaugh was not reassured. Echoing Gorsuch, he told Dreeben that this case has huge implications for the presidency, and that he was very concerned about the future. Kavanaugh, who served as a deputy to Ken Starr during his investigation of then President Bill Clinton, cited the Supreme Court's 1988 decision in Morris v. Olson, upholding the constitutionality of the independent counsel statute as one of the court's biggest mistakes, because it hampered presidential administrations when former presidents are subject to prosecution. Kavanaugh said, "History tells us it's not going to stop." Jackson had a different view. Without the threat of criminal liability, she told Sauer, future presidents will be emboldened to commit crimes. So really, I mean, this a lot of the stuff that they're saying really does it raises solid points. This really is kind of a landmark decision, and it does look like it is going to be a swinging in favor of Trump, right? Ultimately, my decision is basic, or my opinion is basically, I believe that it really is it's not a symbolic position, it really does have more weight. It should have more weight than it actually seems to wield nowadays, right? I remember growing up and stuff like that. I always would think like, well, what's the purpose of the president? What does the president actually do, right? Basically, the president gets to approve and disapprove and stuff like that. It seemed to me that the president really was kind of a ceremonial role growing up. At least that's the way that they kind of pushed it in school, right? With the whole separation of powers and stuff like that. Obviously, they'll teach you about the monarch age before they start getting into American history and stuff like that, if they're going in chronological order. But so basically your mind is already kind of a preset to that idea of kings and absolute rule and basically top down authority and stuff like that. And so it basically they make it seem like the role of president really is just kind of a ceremonial role, right? So yeah, this is a real big landmark court case, right? But with 4 of the court's conservative justices, Thomas, Alito, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh, appearing to lean towards some form of immunity for Trump, the ruling may hinge on Roberts, who, although relatively quiet, seemed dubious about the reasoning of the D.C. Circuit's opinion, which he summarized as saying that a former president can be prosecuted because he's being prosecuted. And although Dreeben stressed that layers of protection available to shield a former president from unwarranted prosecutions, such as the assumption that prosecutors will act in good faith and the need for a grand jury to return an indictment, Roberts asked Dreeben why the court shouldn't send the case back or issue an opinion saying that's not the law. The court is expected to issue all of its decisions for the current term by the end of June or early July. Even if the justices leave open the possibility that Trump can still face criminal charges in some form or another, the timing of the court's ruling and whether its decision requires additional proceedings in the lower courts, for example, to determine which of the acts alleged in Smith's complaint involve official or private conduct could complicate Smith's efforts to move the D.C. trial forward before the 2024 election. All right. I'll be right back. I need some motherfucking water. My mouth is dry as fuck. All right, sorry about that, but all right, so yeah, definitely like I said, landmark decision here. It really is going to change the future of this country, which really right now we are at an inflection point that is going to change the future trajectory of the country one way or another. But really it's I guess, like I say, it decides whether or not that position of president is just a ceremonial one, and whether we are just a fully I guess I don't know how you describe it, but basically a self-running machine, and that would be a bureaucracy, a pure bureaucracy of unelected so-called elitists, basically ruling over the people, or whether or not the president has some sort of a big stick that he's able to wave around, right? So that's really what this decision comes down to. And we've really kind of seen the progression over time of basically more power going up and up and up the ladder, right? The United States really kind of started out as basically a loose confederacy of states that happen to be united, and over time through different sorts of acts, different sorts of periods, the Civil War, after World War II, read American history, right? You'll get the gist of it, and you'll see that the progression tends to lean toward granting more power to the federal section of the government, and basically taking it away from the states, right? So it would make sense that it would kind of lean toward the presidential powers being you know again something more than simply ceremonial. But it remains to be seen. It remains to be seen. Of course, we do have the good news, which is that basically the majority of the Supreme Court is conservative. All right. And at the same time, just that it really would make more sense. It like they said, the ruling in there are negatives that could result from either direction, right? If they basically ruled that presidents are immune, well, then that basically could possibly make it a gigantic fucking shitstorm to stop a president that has gone rogue, basically a president that's gone tyrannical, right? Uh, it would make it much more difficult to prosecute that type of stuff. It make Joe Biden absolutely immune for basically overrunning our country with illegal immigrants and basically selling us out to the Chinese Communist Party. And then on the other hand, if they rule that they do or they don't have presidential immunity, well, then as they mentioned, every first term president is basically going to be fresh meat for the slaughter after their first term. And considering the fact that basically the role of president really does kind of require I guess kind of a going beyond making these bold decisions, making these tough decisions, it really it's going to really be kind of necessary for us to be able to have that. But either way, if you guys can't tell, that joint did hit me pretty good. But we got this other basically a decision that they're mulling over right now in the Supreme Court. Let me go ahead and pop this up. See, there's no homeless right to sleep rough, and the Supreme Court seems to agree. So in a Supreme Court showdown on Monday over whether the homeless have a right to camp in public, almost no one mentioned the actual victims of this crazy idea. Everyone who's not homeless. Homeless advocates, including the American Civil Liberties Union, told the court living on the streets is a victimless crime. Victimless? Everyone who has to step over needles or human poop and navigate around half-conscious bodies on their way to work or taking their kids to school, that makes them a victim. All right. Every store owner whose entrance is blocked by makeshift cardboard shelters is a victim. Every family that wants to use a park and finds it cluttered with sprawling tents is a victim, especially considering the fact that the people that actually pay taxes, their tax dollars go to pay for that motherfucking park that's now basically being used as a shithole / camp, homeless encampment, right? The homeless are more likely than the general population to commit violent crimes. Of course, that's basic truth, because obviously poverty breeds desperation. Desperation brings about violence. The public has every reason to be wary. Municipalities all over the United States are watching the case. City of Grants Pass versus Johnson, which challenges a Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals rule barring penalties for sleeping with blankets and other paraphernalia on public property. The Ninth Circuit, known for its left-wing rulings, says these penalties amount to cruel and unusual punishment because the homeless have no choice. Right? They have no choice, and it's circumstances of reality. It's social and economic circumstances that have put them in this place, right? Namely, being the price of drugs being so high, or basically the amount of drugs being so abundant. Really, the supply and demand of the drug flow, it doesn't matter in either direction. It's going to create problems, right? But yeah, great, absolutely fucking ridiculous. But see, no choice is another whopper. No choice is another whopper. Okay, yeah, that's basically what I was saying. San Francisco authorities reported that 60% of homeless individuals living on the streets refuse shelter when it's offered. Right, main reason is because of the fact that it's they'll offer shelters, but of course they have rules. You can't just go there. It's not like you can turn the entire place into a fucking crack den. You can't, turn a homeless shelter into basically a trap house, anything like that. So ultimately they're gonna have rules. They're gonna say that no, you can't fucking smoke crack in the in the bunk beds. You can't smoke crack while the kids are running around playing and shit. No, you can't masturbate in front of fucking everybody while everyone's eating dinner and shit. Like they're gonna have rules to it. And a lot of the people being, of course, mentally ill, fully drug addicted, name your affliction, your victim hierarchy thing. What is it? Your reason that you have no choice. And obviously that's going to make it difficult for these people to be able to get along in these places. But ultimately, I mean, that is the reality. That is the reality. If you're actually down on your luck, if you're not just there trying to just suckle at the teat of the good graces of the people, then ultimately, I mean, you're going to have to humble yourself. You're going to have to come with your hat and your hat in hand, and I need a place to stay. I'll do what I got to do. And then at the same time, it's not like they a lot of these places piss test you. I mean, they don't. They're just saying don't fucking do it here. And so that's the reality of it. But let's go ahead and continue on with this. San Francisco authorities. Here in New York City, every homeless person is guaranteed shelter. When Mayor Eric Adams sends outreach teams from the Department of Homeless Services to the tent encampments, a staggering 95% decline shelter and opt to stay outside. Justice Clarence Thomas got closest to this practical truth when he asked if the grants pass or Grants Pass, Oregon ordinance criminalizes lacking a home or the deliberate decision to sleep rough instead of going to a shelter, right? So again, it's another aspect to it, right? There's a difference. There's quite a few people that aren't down on their luck. There's quite a few people that this is just the life that they chose, right? And so basically, are those people considered homeless, or are they considered basically sleeping rough, right? That's basically the difference there, and they're trying to decide whether or not you could count somebody as being just down on their luck or having no choice if they make an active choice to go ahead and live that way. So a big surprise is who is siding with Grants Pass. Democratic polls, including California Governor Gavin Newsom, and a long list of blue cities, except, you guessed it, New York. Grants Pass lawyer explained the Ninth Circuit has erected a judicial roadblock affecting virtually every municipality in the 9 western states in its jurisdiction, preventing them from clearing encampments. The results are crime, fires, the resurgence of medieval diseases, like in the crazy ass shit, environmental harm, and record levels of drug overdoses and deaths on public streets. Phoenix City officials in a friend of the court brief complained Ninth Circuit judges are acting like homeless people's czars, usurping what local governments should decide. Right. And again, that is a thing that is on a local type thing. It should be like a city ordinance type thing, right? And they should be allowed to have those choices as well. They shouldn't be forced to basically allow people to well, basically, I mean, the federal government, like I say, in my opinion, I really don't think the federal government should have all that much say in what happens on a local level, right, within localities and stuff like that. But ultimately, I mean, this is the nation we've come to live in, right? Everybody's become so dependent upon the federal government. How's it going, man? We got swine jumping in the house here. Yeah, but, basically everybody's become so dependent on the federal government. The federal government's been granted itself so much power that nobody actually looks, to the local communities, to the local legislatures, to their local elected officials to change things on a local level, right? The people in California are always trying to regulate what the fucking people in Florida are doing for whatever reason, and then the fucking people in New York are trying to fucking bitch at the people in rural Nebraska about their carbon footprint. Like it doesn't make any fucking sense, but it's really just because of the fact that everybody's become so dependent on the federal government. Again, as the anti-federalists told you back in the day, that it's going to get to a point where the federal government is going to naturally, because that's basically the function of government, would be to naturally usurp more power from the people and grant it to itself. And that's what we're seeing. We're basically with Trump derangement syndrome. We're quickly devolving into a police state tyranny, to put it lightly. Yeah. How you doing, man?
Doing damn fine, bro. Sorry about the fucking late turn up, man. Business.
No worries. No worries. All you missed was me fucking ripping a joint and then fucking stuttering my way through the Supreme Court opinion on presidential immunity. So you want to go ahead and throw your thoughts on presidential immunity real quick?
Well, I mean, as far as my own personal thoughts, obviously, without immunity, you're setting up any future president to be prosecuted at the whims of any psychotic that's involved, in any fashion as far as being able to start the process, right? We have already a criminal prosecution for presidents, which is impeachment, which is not only the removal of, but that is also a court case where the chief justice sits in and hears these cases like any other criminal case. And once a president is found guilty, obviously, and the impeachment goes through, that's when there would be that criminal aspect that could be introduced. But at this point, they're basically plotting and scheming. It's just basically like picking and choosing because we not only know about Obama with the drone strikes, but previous presidents with alternate electors sending in National Guard to make sure Republicans' votes are cast, so on and so forth, that could have been prosecuted and could still with previous living presidents, obviously. And so, I mean, you're opening up a whole different can of worms just to appease your TDS, basically.
Yep. Yep. And then at the same time, I mean, there's also the flip side of it, where basically if they obviously, which is looking the way that they're going, rule that basically presidents are immune with their official acts, that obviously brings up the question as to what is an official act and what is a private act. Well, in the role of presidency, but then it also, as they're trying to argue, could make it to where basically presidents are more, I guess, bold with their decisions in terms of seizing more power, stuff like that, and basically, the possibility toward becoming tyrannical despots.
Right. Yeah,
Right.
and as far as like like discerning between a criminalistic, like a personal and an official act, I mean, basically, if the dude's not out committing mass crime as far as like theft or murder, rape, the usual suspects, anything else the man pretty much does. And I mean, I guess you shouldn't say man, right? Let me could be president, what have you. But you know what I'm saying? Whoever's in that
Very,
position, basically,
very
as
woke
long
of
as
you.
it's not yeah. As long as it's not, one of the featured crimes that you or I were going to get charges for, it should be labeled as an official act. You know what I
All
mean?
right.
Even if you don't agree with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and then at the same time, when it comes to those types of bold acts, that's quite literally what the role of president is for. Like that's quite literally why we have a president. Basically, that's why we have someone to be the leader of our nation. Even though for the most part, what they do is approve and veto bills, and they ask the Congress to work on this, and they advocate for that. They recognize they do geopolitical stuff like that too. That's another big role that they have. But ultimately, other than that, I mean, when it comes to decisions that need to be made expeditiously, that's where the role of president steps in, right? And so that's this is what's going to decide whether or not they actually even have that power, or whether or not they should be afraid to even exercise that power because of the fact that they're going to get fucking prosecuted as soon as they leave office. You know,
Yeah, every single
puts us in
time.
a rough position.
Yeah, so it's going to give presidents trepidations. They're not going to act at the speed and efficiency that they could or should, because they're going to be worried about, am I going to end up in fucking prison for the rest of my life when I leave office right now for making a decision that I feel is the best for the country as a whole, what have you. So it's just opening up a
Yeah,
whole different set of worms. And of course, you got to hear, if anybody listened to the audio, the Supreme Court, you got to hear, Sotomayor, the stupidest fucking, superior judge in history, I would have to assume. And she starts going on with, well, basically, the outline I'm coming up with in her own head, of what could happen if a president had unchecked power, and then you see she got crushed. We've been living under the system for 247 years, ma'am. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
this has never been an issue, and up until this point. And he didn't go on to say, which he should have, but it's pretty obvious to anyone paying attention. It's just because of who the man is, not actually because of actions.
yep. It's all like I was saying right before you got on. Basically what we've seen throughout American history is a natural progression towards basically centralizing power within the federal government, right? And basically where we're at right now is we're basically at that pivotal point where it's deciding what type of immunities and powers the president has. The problem is that most of the motherfuckers making decisions right now got Trump derangement syndrome to the fullest. And so basically, these people are operating with broken brains right now. And so, this could be a pivotal moment that could really make or break the nation in either direction.
Yeah, and especially with the figures that are supposed to be above and apart, nonpartisan, like AGs and superior court judges and whatnot. You see, it's even ruined those aspects, especially with like the Colorado AG. She's coming out saying, we will. Well, no, as a matter of fact, it's the Arizona AG that just indicted the Trump team that
Yep.
was basically saying, oh well, we just can't let people get above there. We got to check power, yada yada yada. But we really got to get Joe Biden's reelected. Like, I mean, one, that's showing your partisanship.
Right.
Two, that's all the dude has done since he's been in office is abuse the Constitution and usurp powers.
Yep. Yep. That's it's where we're at right now. It's a motherfucking coup, I say.
Yeah, yeah.
But
And then Merchant, of
back
course.
back to go ahead.
Obviously, again, a superior court judge there in New York, completely biased, beyond partisan. His family is partisan. His daughter, who's made millions of dollars off of Adam Schiff alone, is out on social media basically saying, she hopes this guy goes to prison. And it just so happens her dad's presiding over the case. I mean, it's a fucking show sham, partisan witch hunt shit. And you don't want to use those terms because, like so many, they get played out and lose meaning. But there's almost no other way to pinpoint it at this juncture, as far as it's a sham witch hunt, man.
You're right. Yep. TDS, man. TDS is basically put these people at all or nothing mode.
Yeah.
Yep. The slow walk has just gone to a full gallop.
And like, obviously these people, even though you'd like to label them stupid because of the shit that they say, the outlandishness, they're not stupid. They didn't rise to these powers, with their positions with low intellect. You know what I mean? These people have brains. They just think you don't. And
Right.
and they're basically willing to put that on the line to let people think they're morons just to get this single thing accomplished, which is destroy the only president in decades that has America's better interests at the forefront.
Yep. obviously at this point right now, the clear front runner. It's America's president right now. I don't have the video pulled up, but I mean, there's the fucking union workers in New York. They erupted for fucking Donald Trump.
Yeah, and you've seen the union boss, the union head there at that local.
Right.
I mean, he said the same thing. We're majority Democrat, but we're voting Trump.
Right. Yep. Fuck you, Joe Biden. Yep. The sentiment of everybody, man. Especially with the fact that we're having rulings like this, having to be played out in SCOTUS, right?
There should, and there should almost be a limit on whether a judge should.
If you're ruling that they have going on right now.
I'm sorry, that was like a double hearing. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut into your. It's like you stopped over here for a second and then you started going. It was two voices going at once. That's so weird, man.
Good old fucking Rumble, man. Top of the line technology.
Right. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
All right, but I'm not too sure. If you've heard too much about this one that they're hearing right now, which is basically whether or not homeless people have a right to sleep in public, or to sleep rough. They're putting it. You heard much about this one?
No, I did not.
All right, so I'll go ahead and start from the top real quick. A Supreme Court showed on Monday over whether the homeless have a right to camp in public. Almost no one mentioned the actual victims of that crazy idea. Everyone who's not homeless. Homeless advocates, including the American Civil Liberties Union, told the court living on the streets is a, quote, victimless crime. Victimless? Everyone who has to step over needles and human poop and navigate their way around half-conscious bodies on their way to work or taking their kids to school is a victim. Every store owner whose entrance is blocked by makeshift cardboard shelters is a victim. Every family that wants to use the park and finds it cluttered with sprawling tents is a victim. The homeless are more likely than the general population to commit violent crimes. The public has every reason to be worried. Municipalities all over the United States are watching the case. City of Grants Pass versus Johnson, which challenges a Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruling barring penalties for sleeping with blankets and other paraphernalia on public property. The Ninth Circuit, known for its left-wing rulings, says these penalties amount to, quote, cruel and unusual punishment because the homeless have, quote, no choice. No choice is another whopper. Right? San Francisco authorities reported that 60% of homeless individuals living on the street refuse shelter when it's offered. Here in New York City, every homeless person is guaranteed shelter. When Mayor Eric Adams sends outreach teams from the Department of Homeless Services to the tent encampments, a staggering 95% decline shelter and opt to stay outside. Justice Clarence Thomas got closest to this practical truth when he asked if the Grants Pass, Oregon ordinance criminalizes lacking a home or the deliberate decision to sleep rough instead of going to a shelter. A big surprise is who's siding with Grants Pass. Democratic polls, including California Governor Gavin Newsom, and a long list of blue cities, except, you guessed it, New York. Grants Pass lawyers explained the Ninth Circuit has erected a judicial roadblock affecting virtually every municipality in the 9 western states in its jurisdiction, preventing them from clearing encampments. The results are crime, fires, the resurgence of medieval diseases, environmental harm, and record levels of drug overdoses and deaths on public streets. You walk down the street, you either see a dead person or a pile of shit. Either way, it's about the same thing. But Phoenix City officials in a friend of the court brief complained Ninth Circuit judges are acting like homeless police czars, usurping what local governments should decide. Justice Brett Kavanaugh echoed that warning against having federal courts micromanaging homeless policy. That's what's been happening. Anti-camping regulations adopted in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Phoenix, and Portland were all overridden by the Ninth Circuit's president. And courts in the rest of the country have cited that precedent as a reason to tolerate homeless encampments. Grants Pass is so atypical of the largest cities wrestling with homelessness that the outcome of the case is somewhat difficult to predict. It's a town of 40,000 with a small church-run shelter. But Monday's argument suggested that the justices will rule 6-3 or 5-4 that municipalities can ban sleeping on public property. The ruling will affect the entire nation except perhaps New York City, which is abandoning common sense. Got a typo in there.
That's
Abandoning
surprising.
common sense. Right. The city council adopted the Homeless Bill of Rights in 2023, making Gotham the only big city with an explicit right to sleep in public spaces. Mayor Eric Adams did not veto it. There would have been no point. The bill passed unanimously. What are city lawmakers thinking? Shit, the bill passed unanimously. Fucking shit, Katie Hobbs, she'd veto that motherfucker in a heartbeat. Right? She don't give a fuck if shit passed unanimously. See, what are city lawmakers thinking? Homeless people deserve compassion, but allowing them to freeze to death or succumb to disease isn't compassionate. Data shows they are shortening their own lifespan by 30 years or more. Jumani Williams, the city's public advocate, sponsored the Homeless Bill of Rights, blathering that the city has to look at the root causes of homelessness rather than stoking fear. What do you think the root causes of homelessness are? Fucking, yeah. I mean, granted, there are some people that really just did get a raw deal, got fucked over, and basically now they're shit on their luck, right? A lot of those people, if you offer them a fucking shelter, though, they're not going to turn it down, right? So the rest of the 95% of motherfucking people in New York City that will turn down that shit, there's obviously a different problem than them just being down on their luck or them, quote, having no choice, right?
Yeah, it's because those shelters have stipulations. You can't be drunk. You can't be on drugs. You got to be in by a certain time. And these fools would rather fucking smoke fentanyl. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. Feel that, man. Right. Of course, root causes must be addressed, but in the meantime, fear is warranted, and the public deserves clean, safe streets. Fair warning: Williams is eyeing Adams' job as mayor. Oh, great. The court expected ruling will allow local authorities across America to crack down on homeless encampments, but the justices cannot command they do it. The law-abiding public, who are the real victims of homelessness, need to elect local leaders who will say no to preferring the rights of the homeless over the rights of the rest of us. New York City voters, it's up to you. All right?
Yeah.
You can do it. Get rid of those fucking donkey motherfuckers.
Right.
Yeah. So really, it's basically what we're seeing a lot with rulings right now, and it's basically the Supreme Court is saying send it back to the fucking states, let the states and the local municipalities handle it on a local basis, right? A lot of people are fucking freaking out about that too. Like, people are like, oh yeah, it's Trump's fault that the Supreme Court's returned abortion back to the states. Like, that you're saying that like it's a bad thing, dude. Like, I'm telling you, these people are just it's the way that we've developed in the United States. We've developed that, the federal government, overrules everything, which, I mean, according to the Constitution, it does, but ultimately the federal government is, it's not supposed to act on that ability to overrule all the fucking states, right? The federal government, they're not supposed to be focusing too much on, basically overarching laws. I mean, especially when it comes to some of the stuff that's already in place, like the Second Amendment for one. But they're not supposed to be focusing on that type of stuff. That's supposed to be done on a local level. That's literally the reason for the 10th Amendment, which by this point, due to fucking civil wars and all kinds of fucking shit, the nullification crisis, basically the idea of states' rights has been pretty much nullified itself, right? And that's what we see right now in America is basically everyone, the federal government, everything, right? It's who you get elected in the federal government that matters. That's why a lot of local state legislatures and stuff like that generally have a conservative leaning in it, because of the fact that most people that are voting on local issues, local elections, local legislation and stuff like that, those people actually pay attention and know where you actually get actual change for your local community. It's within your local government, not within the federal government, right? But yeah, so I mean, ultimately, basically sending it back to the states. Hopefully some of these states will be able to actually clean their streets up, other than just when their foreign dignitaries are going to be in town. Xi
Yeah, and
Jinping.
of course, you want to see that, especially like here in Tucson, we see the homeless problem exploding with, the California exodus, right? Not that there hasn't been an issue here before because of the fact that it's warm here all year round. You know what I mean? But
Yep.
we're seeing an increase in it, and this will be looked at as fascism, just like you were saying with they return abortion back to the states, and what are they screaming? This is fascism. They want to make it,
Right.
a Handmaid's Tale. I mean, just retarded shit. When everybody, you should be well aware, it's much easier to influence your local government than it is a faceless federal leviathan that's thousands of miles away. And
Right.
and this right here shouldn't even be a question, right? You can say you have a heart. Well, I care for people, whatever the case is. That doesn't mean that businesses should be forced to let homeless people sleep in the fucking doorway of their functioning way of making a living. You know what I mean? Like that's just asinine. And to put someone's rights over I mean, I'm not a fan of taxes anyway. Before I get like you just did, that's very woke of you. I'm against fucking taxes. You know what I'm saying? But you're going to put some homeless cats, so-called rights over a taxpayer that, employs you, may have voted for you, and it's actually a productive member when these fools are, it's a conscious choice. Like you were just saying, there's a massive majority. There's a small sect that got a raw deal, a small sect that's got, mental illness, and then everything in between are drunks and fucking drug addicts, man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's what it is. And you
Yeah.
shouldn't be forced to deal with that by a state or federal government. And this is one more reason to bring back the old fucking, Shady Sands nut houses and shit.
All right. Yep. I mean, really, shit. Send these people where they can get the help that they need.
Yeah, exactly. The people that, actually have a mental illness that prevents them from functioning in society, they shouldn't be homeless. I'll
All
give
right.
you that. And if I have to pay taxes, I would rather it help my countrymen that are in actual need than be sent over to Ukraine or be used as handouts to purchase votes. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. Fucking and then so I don't know what's your thoughts on like I don't know so what they're citing is basically the Eighth Amendment in terms of cruel and unusual punishment, and they're basically saying that homeless is a status, right? They're basically saying that it's not a choice. That's basically homelessness is a status, and what they're trying to equate it to is a ruling that was done, back in the day. I don't remember, when exactly, but basically to a ruling on drug addiction, right? To where basically saying that the it's you can't criminalize people for being a drug addict. You could criminalize them for buying drugs. You could criminalize them for selling drugs, for having drugs. But you can't criminalize somebody because they are a drug addict, right? And that's basically what they're trying to cite as saying that homelessness is a state of being, basically, right? And then that's why they're trying to say that that there's no choice. But I wanted to basically get your opinion on the original thing that they're citing, basically the idea of not being able to criminalize things like drug addiction.
I mean, in a way, I agree with that, right? Consenting adults. I mean, the whole, freedom, liberty type of situation. But when liberty's abused and it's completely spun out of its original intent, like the current paradigm, like you're talking about homeless drug addicts and whatnot, and you treated this as a rehabilitation issue rather than a full on criminal activity. I mean, it could be a productive thing, to prosecute someone for it if that was coupled with the punishment. Basically, you're not only going to go to jail, but the whole time you're in this jail, it's basically like a court ordered rehab, yada yada. I
Right.
mean, and I mean, we already spend so much money. You take the privatized section out, have it a federal fucking situation. to where the same dollars are paying for the programs that they're currently, fucking shitting on. I mean, it could be a good thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And as far as it being a status, and I can even understand that. Regardless if you say it's a choice or it's not a choice, it still
It,
ultimately could be considered a status. But with that
so
status, doesn't mean you can sleep in my fucking doorway.
right.
I mean, go pitch you a tent,
So
whatever.
the whole thing with the drug addiction being a status goes back to the era of it's a disease. It's not a choice. It's a disease,
Right,
right?
and both of us struggle with drugs, and
Yeah.
previously in our past lives, and we both know that that was a conscious choice to do those fucking drugs. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And if you
Yep.
get carried away with it, again, that's your lack of willpower. It's not a fucking disease. I
Right.
know myself stood up and walked away from meth cold turkey after a consecutive handful of years of everyday use, and just one day I woke up, I'm not fucking doing this again, and that
Right.
was it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's of course that I do understand too that that is a stronger set of will that a lot of people, I guess, in the modern age have. Really, most people should have that, but that's boils down to the point that people nowadays have no centralized morality. People have no, you know, I guess people just don't have any common sense of will. You know, but the in terms of whether or not it should be legal or illegal to basically you know criminalize the act of addiction and stuff like, or the status of addiction. So the thing with not being able to criminalize it is, of course, if somebody is just a hopeless addict and they're not out there committing crimes and stuff like that, that's going to eventually land them in jail and stuff like that, they're going to go on like that indefinitely until something happens that basically could ruin their life even more than the fucking drugs do, right? So in reality, if they were to basically, and of course you don't want to have like a whole fucking thing where, because obviously we smoke weed and stuff like that. You don't want to have it to where basically any fucking Karen could be like, oh, I smell marijuana coming from my neighbor's house, that he's obviously a drug addict. You want to be able to avoid shit like that. So obviously it's got to be noticeable. If a person is sleeping outside fucking covered in piss and just not obviously not in a fucking good place, I think it would probably be more compassionate to forcibly take that person to somewhere where they could fucking clean themselves up, get mandatory rehabilitation, mandatory help, uh basically just you know give them a timeout, a compassion timeout, basically to where they could slow down and basically come back to uh, a sense of clarity, I guess. Give them a moment of clarity to be able to see what the fuck they're doing to themselves. And
Yeah,
I
a shave, a haircut. I mean, that kind of shit goes a long way. It's
right.
stuff that we take for granted and look at like it's an everyday action. But someone that's been on the streets for an extended period and they're all fucked up, that's going to change the way that they look at themselves on an immediate basis. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? As stupid as that sounds, and you even see the videos when the inner zones, or where there's barbers that cruise around and give homeless people haircuts, and you can see a physical change. And I don't mean the haircut. I mean, a physical change, like in their eyes, like their face, like, you know what I mean? I mean, there's stupid things that really do help and change. And then, not to mention, like I was saying, how much tax dollars go to these privatized prisons when you could
Yeah.
transfer that shit to a federal process. And instead of it just being, you're going to go out and trim weeds, in the middle of the medians, like there's actual programs, you know what I mean? Set up to rehabilitate. And I don't want to be soft on crime like we're fucking Sweden out here, but at the same time, you bring these people in, you're no programs, no rehabilitation, no job training, and then they basically come in and get this even more of a criminal education, more deeper ideas put in their heads, yada yada, and then they get sent out on their own, and you expect them not to come back. It's
Right.
the recidivism is going to continue to be a problem as long as the only punishment is either come in here and stare at these walls or you're going to go pull weeds. I mean, what
Yep.
what exactly are you doing? And I could see if it's like some murder or rapist, a chomo, whatever. Yeah, those are your guys that's going to be slave labor and they're going to stare at four walls. But the guys that are in there for something like drug charges, assault, some shit like that, they can be rehabilitated and become productive members of society. And obviously with your own story, and I haven't been in prison, but I made a lot of fucking bad choices as a young guy. And if we can turn it around, fuck, anybody can turn that shit around.
Yeah. Yep. It's shit. You hate to sound cliched, but a lot of these people just need Jesus. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, that too, and it really does help. I mean, or Allah, whatever the case is.
Right.
You see a lot of guys, especially being from Detroit, you see a lot of black males that go to prison, and some of them go in there and find Islam and come out, and they're more conservative than you or I, or anyone and that's strictly because they found that book.
Right. And they want to cut your head off.
Well, the black Muslims are a little different, but
Right.
they want to sell you bean pies and shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Good old fucking bean pies, man. But yeah, so I mean, like I said, I guess we are starting to see a bit of a turn towards things going back to the states, right? So I mean, that's a could be a good thing, could be it could further divide us, right? Because of course, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of stuff, a lot of the states' rights have been stripped away, and that has been from legitimate, I guess, grievances, right? So the nullification crisis, that was basically the first time that the federal government said that the federal government can go in and enforce federal law in individual states, right? And that was basically the tariffs. That was basically Andrew Jackson trying to impose tariffs on foreign goods that were heading to the South. And of course, the South, South Carolina, I believe it was specifically, basically said, well, fuck you. We ain't going to recognize your tariffs. We ain't going to collect tariffs on this shit. We're going to fucking have trade, amongst, we're going to have free trade with, South Carolina and the foreign nations and stuff. And basically, Andrew Jackson got congressional approval to go in there and basically send the federal government to enforce federal tariffs in the individual states, right? So that was the first step. And then the second one was obviously the Civil War, where basically the states were trying to exercise their rights to secede, and the federal government said right? And we all know how that ended up turning out. And basically now we're fully federalized fucking nation, right? So it is kind of good to at least see the sentiment amongst the courts, the officials, going back toward that more of a states' rights thing. But it could, again, just lead to more, I guess, division.
Yeah, he definitely lead the division. Obviously, like you could use a state like an echo chamber for sure. And then you also have, the federal government that's going to try to rein that back in regardless. And they do that through, blackmail. You know what I mean? We'll cut off funding for this or that if you don't acquiesce to, this bill or this law. And, to me, a lot of this stems not only from the shit that you named, but the fact that we tend to elect leaders in our states that are too horrified to stand up to the federal leviathan, as far as like the federal government's not supposed to be able to own land, right? But they'll come in and take your shit and put restrictions on it, and you can't drill here, whatever, and the states do nothing about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if they can do that, then they'll just keep pushing, and that's what always happens. I mean, it's like a fucking child. You let them get away with this, they're going to try that to see if they can too, and if they can, they're going to keep pushing. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You see the comment here, Valiant Thor. Remember when there was no wars, our borders were secure, our borders were secured. I do. I'm voting for Trump.
All right. Yep.
Damn it!
And
I remember that shit too, and I remember my checks being bigger.
yep. Shit, I'm voting for Trump too, and it's actually more for that the previous reason that you're just talking about, right? Where basically the state, the federal government has become more and more emboldened with each one of these steps. This is the final fucking step toward despotism, right? If Trump does not win this election, if the federal government is able to pull this off right in front of everybody's fucking face, literally in your face, with the big middle finger telling you to go fuck yourself, you're voting for who we tell you you're allowed to vote for. If they're able to pull that off, that's it. That's over. End game. We are no longer fucking United States. We are the federal government of America. Like that's it. and not even the actual federal government. We're a fucking federal bureaucracy of America, right? And that's
banana bureaucracy.
right. Yep. That's shit. You don't need me to tell you how that could be a fucking nightmare scenario, right? So again, that's my reason for voting for Donald Trump, right? I mean, shit doesn't even matter. I mean, shit, he could promise the fucking world. Really, like I said, the big thing in my eyes is shutting the federal government down, basically showing the federal government that the populace still has the power. The power is still at least within the people if we could pull our heads out of our asses and pay attention.
Yeah, and people need to realize that the federal government, for the most part, not only is this made up of your countrymen, but they are not, what they portray themselves as. Look no further than the Greg Abbott situation, where the Biden government won in the Supreme Court, but Abbott told them stick it up your ass, and just kept building up the barbed wire border fences. And they said that the federal government can tear it down. They didn't say we can't continue to build it. And you haven't heard shit about that since.
Right.
You know what I mean? So for the vast majority of the time, inter-country aspects, the state can push too. It's just we keep electing spineless fucking jellyfish. And again, Texas is a prime example. They're doing the exact opposite of what the Biden admin ordered and won in court over, and they're still doing it. Fuck you and fuck you. But but at that same time, you would hope that Abbott's doing it for the right reasons, but it is an election season, and it's kind of hard to ignore that aspect because he really wasn't doing a lot before that besides the whole show of busing, which is just getting these people to their destination to increase the electoral vote count for those blue states. So it's almost like he kind of helped them there for quite a minute.
Right. Yep. Shit. Speaking of it, it's definitely an election season. That's for sure. And one thing that, at least that I see is hard to ignore and that is really working against the Democrats is the fucking psychotic fucking jihadists all over the fucking college campuses, man. All right. Like, and I'm sure you guys have seen the videos all over the fucking place, fucking black and Jews and all this and that type of stuff from being able to get to class. A lot of the colleges are basically, if you don't work here, if you don't go to school here, basically nobody's allowed on campus grounds. They're restricting Jewish people, Jewish professors from being able to go to their classrooms without an escort. I mean, in the actual definition, this is actual terrorism, right? And this is actual fucking terrorism. I mean, they are here with a political agenda. It's a purely political fucking movement, and they are using their force and numbers to terrorize individual groups of people, and basically to force these people, out of their schools, their places of work, their livelihoods, right? And that's textbook terrorism, right? But of course, we're not going to see any of that type of rhetoric coming out of the left-wing media. But at the same time, it's almost impossible to ignore. Like, this is fucking fiery, but mostly peaceful all over again. Right. Except I think we're coming to a point, especially with the Biden administration, inflation being what it is, the economy being as bad as it is. Most people aren't buying the Biden administration's bullshit. Right. The mainstream media's bullshit. I take that back. I don't want to say most people. Most people are still fucking idiots, but a good number of people that are, that were previously normies are starting to pay attention nowadays. And that's all that it takes, right? We're seeing it with Donald Trump's poll numbers. He's fucking wrecking it. He's fucking killing it. From the union workers in New York City to the old black community all over the damn country. Like, basically, the tables are turning. We're seeing a reorganization of political identity here in America, and it really, like I said, it's looking like it's going to result in a landslide for Donald J. Trump. Of course, you don't want to say those types of things. You don't want to repeat a red wave of 2022. So of course, make sure you sign up everybody that you know to vote. All this, you know the spiel, right? But so yeah, just don't get complacent. But according to the polls, based off of where the Donald Trump was in 2020 and down in 2016 compared to now, it's looking like Donald Trump is gonna completely fucking shatter records, landslide victory.
Yeah, and a win's a win, so you'll take it regardless, right? But the sad part, the sad aspect of what you were saying there, with people waking up to, the political aspects, and you named a couple of different groups there, is it all boils down to economics, strictly.
Yep.
Because I shouldn't even say economics; I should say finances. You know what I mean? Because it's basically like the one group, like you said, the normies that are starting to pay attention. That's a man. I can't afford food no more. It's getting hard to put gas in the car, shit like that. And then like the union workers, for instance, you got Biden saying he's pro-union, but yet he's signing all these edicts and executive orders that are putting their work in the hands of China, and like with the electrical move. I mean, we don't have plants that are producing that shit. You know what I mean? We
Right.
have Tesla. Like everything else is basically reliant on China. So I mean, that's where you're getting that. I mean, it's all these different groups. I was just saying about myself, right? I'm sure you feel the same. I know last year, regardless of the Stooges reeing around the inner zones, but last year, the year before that, it's like I was making more money. I'm part of that class where hours worked is down across the board 9.2%, and your taxes have gone up. Even though Biden's telling you only people that make 400,000 more, look at your fucking check stub. You know what I
Right.
mean? You're paying more in taxes, and it's only
Yep.
going to get worse. He's letting the Trump tax cuts that are currently out there, fucking, they're going to
Expire.
expire, and he's bragging on that, saying if it's up to me, if I'm reelected, they'll stay expired. And then, not to mention, with all the edicts he's putting forward, it's gonna raise your taxes. Even
He,
Janet Yellen admitted to the shit. There will be more taxes paid, and you're
right.
gonna be it.
He's over here bragging about fucking unrealized gains taxes and shit like that.
Yeah,
He's talking about raising the rate on fucking capital gains taxes. Like he's literally
up
telling
to
you, like, I'm gonna take
44%.
all your money.
Yeah,
Like, and
that's
like I
more
said,
than double communist China. Their fucking capital gains tax rate. You know what I mean? And then, not to
right.
mention, if he hires it to 44, and say you're from California, you're going to pay another 13% on top of that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So you're going to give up over half of anything you gain by purchasing your Bitcoin. And that's the reason they're pushing for the digital currency, so they can tie into that shit, right? And then any stocks, your True Social stock, for instance. I know I made money off of it. If this shit passed, I would owe taxes, a shit ton of taxes on that. You know what I mean? Like, it's, dude.
I cringe every time I see a fucking young person say, "Well, isn't it a free country? Thought this was a free country." You thought wrong, Bobby.
Yeah,
You're absolutely wrong. No, there's nothing even resembling a free country. Like, fuck you talking about?
yeah. Everything's regulated and or taxed, and if it's not usable. You know what I mean? And I
Yep.
mean, you can't even. They don't even want you to breathe for free. That's what carbon taxes are. You're the carbon.
Right. Yep. They gonna get rid of you real quick. Fucking Malthusian sons of bitches. Need to be
Yeah.
terraforming. That's what we need to focus on, man.
And if you want to see, what the results of this look like, I mean, obviously on a smaller scale, so it's happening faster. Otherwise, America, if we were around the same economy size, it'd be here too. But Canada, where all the food banks are saying it's unsustainable, they're completely stressed out. People are relying on buying expired foods at a discount to feed their family, and housing rates have gone up like 235%, and that's what you have to look forward to, man.
All right. Yep.
Keep electing them liberals. Tell you what.
All right. So goes Canada. So goes America. Eh?
Yep,
At least that's
for
the
your
way they
moral
see it, man.
grandstanding and fucking your soul salve, you're going to
Right.
destroy the economy, right? Because it sounds great to help everyone until it's time to help everyone.
Yeah. Yep. It's a great rallying cry, man. It definitely helps you get elected real quick. But then
Yeah.
when it comes time for action, I don't know what the fuck's supposed to do. Republicans. It's their fault. They don't have no comprehensive plan. They don't have the power either. Like, motherfucker, you're supposed to have the plan, you asshole.
Running around just continuously, every action adds more to the debt while he's telling you, I cut the debt by
Right?
1.1 trillion.
Billion trillions. True story, not a joke.
It's not hyperbole.
Gonna put y'all back in chains. Right. So speaking of cutting the debt, the Senate went ahead and passed a $95 billion foreign aid fucking package, which of course was passed in the Senate through Mike Johnson. We talked about that one last week. The $95 billion was tied to the TikTok ban. Right. So of course, you know, if you want to get this TikTok ban through, we're gonna have to we're just gonna lump every fucking thing together and we're just throwing it all in one. If you either vote for all of them or you vote for none of them. Right? So of course, you know, the Republicans, you know, I don't know. Like I said, it's another, you know, dividing issue on the right. But the whole TikTok ban, if they wanted to get that passed, well, they had to pass this $95 billion in foreign aid, which we already knew was going to pass in the first place. I mean, it's you know, war funding. That's our government's primary function, right? So we already knew that was going to fucking pass. But yeah, fucking $95 billion, and they went ahead and tied it to the TikTok ban. So we get more funding for war, right? We get to go ahead and fund Israel and Ukraine and Taiwan now. Taiwan hasn't even been fucking attacked yet, but still, we got to make sure that we secure their borders too, right? You know, obviously, fucking it's an unsustainable, you know, plan. So it's an unsustainable, you know, foreign policy, but ultimately that's the cloud pivot Biden administration, you know. Fucking wreck the goddamn ship. I don't give a fuck, send money to everybody. It's all fucking useless anyway. It's all monopoly money. Who gives a shit, you know? But yeah, that is, you know, just heartbreaking, you know, to you know, to see the priorities of our government, just how out of touch they are with the, you know, their voters, their constituents. But again, you know, it's nothing that we didn't expect. But ultimately, it could you know, weigh positively with you know, again, you know, voters. Yeah, again, I don't know. Most people don't actually pay attention to that shit or even understand economics in a basic enough, you know, sense to understand how this is not going to make things better. This is not going to make your groceries cheaper. This is not going to make anything better, you know. So shit.
Yeah, and you know, again, you're being told the debt's being cut, but you know they're going to add record amounts while collecting record amounts of revenue, right? So it's not a tax issue. So when you got all these people out here, you got to pay your fair shares. They're collecting record revenue. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And no matter how much they get, they're going to spend more. And you know, like you know, you were just saying, this isn't going to make anything better, and it may make you feel better personally, like we're helping people, but you're crippling your grandchildren. You know what I'm saying? And you know, as far as you know, it's the war machine that's the primary function of the government at this point. It's to also sell damn near worthless fucking bonds, which has almost come to an end at this point. And when they can't sell those bonds, that's when the economy's really going to crash, man.
That's when things get really fun.
Yeah. And you keep hearing the damn Bongino line. Is it bad enough yet? It's approaching, man. It's getting there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you've seen now not only with, you know, the economic aspect, but even the violence. Like you had a mayor in California trying to do an interview on the sidewalk, and you know, some passerby comes out, and he ends up going to fisticuffs with his armed guard. You know what I mean? These same people that are trying to disarm you are having their armed guards manhandled by passerbys. I mean, it's, you know, it's you'd say it's laughable if it wasn't your country. You know what I'm saying? But it's a systematic, you know, dismantling.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, down to the, like I was saying, we had some of the protests down there at U of A. I was watching one of the local news reports on it, and basically, there's fucking people over there, jumping in front of the reporter, fucking yelling out "Free Palestine," fucking, down with Zionism and all this and that type of shit. Like, on the local Tucson news and shit like that. Which I don't know if you ever watched the local Tucson news, but it is very dry. There's very not much flavor to it. There is zero personality to it. It is literally read from a script, and that is all. So it's for them to be getting heckled and stuff like that, it's really out of the norm for local Tucson news and shit like that. But that's
I don't ever watch the news, man. I don't even have cable.
yeah. But yeah, that's it's the world that we be living in today, man. $95 billion, and this is just to keep the war fucking machine sustained for a couple more months.
Summer.
Right. this ain't gonna fund shit for very long. I mean, we already have Zelensky fucking bitching about this. This ain't enough. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? He sent you billions and billions of dollars, man. Absolutely.
That brings
ridiculous.
it up to like over 200, I believe, total with weapons and cash handouts and whatnot.
Right.
And what do people actually think? Even the fools out here that are like, I supports Ukraine's. What do you think that's going to do? It's not going to push them over the edge. They're not going to win. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Russia just anytime they want to take something or destroy something, it happens. It's they have no chance.
We're funding the Ukrainian genocide. That's $95 billion more worth of dead Ukrainians. That's what that is. That's what we sent over there. $95 billion worth of death to Ukraine. Yeah, it's not doing them any good.
Yeah, and even if you do, you feel their plight, even if you support them in spirit, why the fuck would you put your grandchildren in debt to defend them while your own border and shit's destroyed? And again, it's hard to afford to feed yourself. Fucking insane out here.
Right.
But that's Russian bot shit, dude. You know what I mean? You say that anywhere in any corner of the inner zones, and you're a goddamn Russian.
Right. Russian stooge rooting for Putin, probably, huh? At this point, man, I'm fucking rooting for an asteroid or something. Yep. But so speaking of local shit here in Arizona, we actually got quite a bit of stuff coming out of Arizona, man. Let me see what I can find real quick. All right. So we'll go ahead and start with the Arizona election. Let's see if I can pull this up. There we go. All right. So breaking: 11 Republican alternate electors, 7 Trump attorneys, and aides indicted by Arizona grand jury over 2020 election. This bitch, this fucking lizard face looking bitch. She looks dead inside. She don't even look like a real person. But 11 Republicans in Arizona have been indicted by a grand jury for their role in sending documents to Congress after the 2020 election that falsely declared Donald Trump to be the winner of the state. The AP was among the first to report. Those indicted include Trump White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, Attorney Rudy Giuliani, Jenna Ellis, John Eastman, and Christina Bobb. Top campaign advisor Boris Espinti, I can't pronounce it, and former campaign aide Mike Roman. The Washington Post reports these are some of the same people indicted in Fulton County DA Fannie Willis's RICO case against Trump and others in Georgia. Trump is included as an unindicted conspirator. 18 were indicted in the case that took place in December 2020 when these individuals signed a certificate claiming they were duly elected and qualified electors, asserting that Donald Trump had won the state. The certificate was then transmitted to Congress. However, it was ultimately disregarded when the results of the 2020 election were officially certified, declaring Joe Biden as the winner. The charges for these individuals range from fraud to forgery to conspiracy. Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays, who called the Arizona election free and fair, stated that the plot to violate the law carried out by these 11 Republicans must be answered for. All right. So go and check out this video. It's a short little, like 1 minute dry ass fucking explanation.
Hi, I'm Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays. Let me start by thanking everyone for your patience as we conducted a thorough and professional investigation over the past 13 months into the fake elector scheme in our state. I understand for some of you today didn't come fast enough, and I know I'll be criticized by others for conducting this investigation at all. But as I have stated before and will say here again today, I will not allow American democracy to be undermined. It's too important. The investigator and attorney assigned to this case took the necessary time to thoroughly piece together the details of events that began 4 years ago. They followed the facts where they led, and I'm very proud of the work they've done to date. We're here because other unindicted co-conspirators allegedly took to undermine the will of Arizona's voter 2020 presidential election. Arizona's election was free and fair. The people of Arizona elected President Biden. Unwilling to accept this fact, the defendants charged by the state grand jury allegedly schemed to prevent the lawful transfer of the presidency. Whatever their reasoning was, the plot to violate the law must be answered for, and I was elected to uphold the law of this state. The scheme, had it succeeded, would have deprived Arizona's voters of their right to have their votes counted for their chosen president. It effectively would have made their right to vote meaningless.
Yeah, she knows a thing or two about making people's rights to vote meaningless.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
yep. So obviously, she's clearly a partisan actor.
Yeah, I mean, she went to court, you know, when she was running for the position to stop 9,000 votes from being counted in Republican areas here in Arizona when she was only winning by 280 votes. Right? She's part of a regime that has nullified attempts at voter integrity. You know what I mean? You know, the obvious schemes with you know, the ballots, the ballot fuck ups, the machines, the Katie Hobbs being in charge of her own election. I mean, she's part of all this while trying to tell you American democracy. And for the millionth time, regardless if these fucking toads repeat it, the lie until they die, it doesn't make it true. We've never lived in a fucking democracy. You know what I mean? And they keep trying to push that point, and it started with Hillary, like, she won the populace votes. They're trying to convince you that we're a democracy. Don't let them. We have an electoral college for a reason.
All right. Yep. So I forgot what I was going to say. But Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk responded to the news by posting on X. Polls show Trump 5 is on a, including the leader of the largest get out the vote ballot chasing operation in the country. You need to use this election close. Don't give up or don't give in. Keep pushing onward. And so here's the list of the 18 people indicted: Kelly Ward, Tyler Bauer, Nancy Cottle, Jacob Hoffman, Anthony Kern, James Lehman, Robert Montgomery, Samuel Moorhead, Lorraine Pellegrino, Gregory Safstead, Michael Ward, Mark Meadows, Rudy Giuliani, Jenna Ellis, John Eastman, Christina Bob, Boris, I can't pronounce your last name. So obviously, you know, she's going after a political opponent. She did spend the first part of her time as AG here in Arizona, basically going after her, going after two other electors in I forget where it was, in Cochise County, I believe. All right, so I mean, this basically been all that she's been doing is working on putting in the fix for the next election, right? Katie Hobbs has been working on it as well too. She's vetoed every single fucking election integrity bill doesn't matter how bipartisan it's been. That's come before her desk. She's vetoed every fucking thing, everything that might fucking tighten up our elections, that might allow fucking some people in Arizona to feel confident in their vote. Nope. She vetoed everything. She's vetoed a fucking overwhelming majority. Let me see. I don't got the actual numbers right here, but yeah, she's vetoed the vast majority of the bill before her desk. She only actually approved a handful of them. But yeah, so I don't know. What's your thoughts on the so-called fake electors scheme?
That's a joke, man. I mean, we have, I know at least, I got clips where the Democrats were making, nationally broadcasted commercials and paying for airtime on MTV to beg for alternate electors and for electors to not vote with, their party's decision. Basically, they're telling you have a conscience and all this shit. And they hired all sorts of stars to star in these commercials to beg for exactly what these people are trying to press charges on. You know what I mean? Everything's a crime unless they're doing it. You know what I'm saying? It's like if it benefits anyone but the Democrat Party, it should be prosecuted, and you're some type of terrorist fucking racisms. But
Right.
it can be as crooked as all hell, but they'll justify it, and the fucking seals will clap every goddamn time. Like it's dude, beyond brainwash, right? I mean, they can convince these people that up is down for sure. Everything that they accused Trump of that or said he would do if he was president, Joe Biden has done, and they're still out here like, Trump's the fascist. It's fuck. It's
Right.
a real clown world, man.
Yeah. It's really just again, it's the lack of a shared sense of morality, right? Like you said, these people basically have assigned themselves as the center of the universe, right? Basically, anything that goes bad against me is absolutely wrong, but anything that you do that I think is bad against you is absolutely freaking right, right? It's just a complete lack of it's demoralization, as Yuri put it. Of course, the people in power, they're just enjoying it because of the fact that all they care about is power. But it's really just the clear fucking lack of the clear amount of partisanship going on, especially within our judicial system. The fact that people are not either paying attention to that. Like I said, a good amount of people are seeing what's going on here, but just such a huge chunk of the population has no fucking clue, and they're just sitting there cheering it on because that's what the fucking I don't know, the latest celebrity said. The latest celebrity fucking made a song about how much they don't like Donald Trump, so I don't like him either. And it really is like Yuri said, ideological subversion.
Yeah. Now, if you could see your messenger, man, I just sent you this MAGA comic, and it's like a perfect example of what we're talking about.
Let's see if I can pop this up real quick. Let's see. I won't use my power to stop him because I believe in the system. Yeah, let's see. When the GOP was in power, yeah, I don't understand why this is happening. Lock up my political opponents. Yep. So that's about
Right.
the gist of it, man.
Right. You see the dude behind him steady ballot harvesting, and it's, I believe in the
Right.
systems. It's a full on prime example of the right at this point. And,
Yep.
Obviously, us being affiliated with it, you don't want to say that, but fucking reality's reality. And, most of the people that get elected on the right are fucking, they're bitches. They'll let these people walk all over them and won't use the same system to their benefit. They don't know how to wield power. And, man, it's definitely time for a change. And I know you hear that all the time. I mean, it's real shit. And
Yep.
I've read the quote here recently. It's make America great again, or it's death to America. Fucking, it's that simple. Fucking choose it.
Yep. Yeah. That's about where we're at right now. And so I mean, I don't know. then again, it does raise the question that basically a system that has both sides constantly going at each other with lawfare, that's the definition of a broken system, you know?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's really, we just need to come back to a sense of normality. And like I said, I think just basically with the way that the tables are constantly tipping in one specific direction, like I said, you rarely see, like, I honestly can't think of a single instance that I've seen of somebody, you know, within the last year or two, or, you know, pretty much since Joe Biden's presidency, basically coming out and saying, like, no, man, fuck Donald Trump, dude. Joe Biden and the Democrats, that's where it's at. Those are the people actually saving it. There's not a fucking single person that has fucking come out, you know, with that.
I see it on the inner zones on a regular. You don't know if it's a fucking paid
that's
shill
from the
or
White
fucking.
House.
That's
coming
No,
directly from
I
the
mean,
White House.
I mean, you could go on my shit on Instagram, and there's fools all up in there. Like I said, yours is Russian. Joe Biden's the greatest president ever. You know what I mean? And that's, you know, you always question, dude, is the DNC fucking paying you? You know what I'm saying? For sure.
Not even paying them. That's fucking part of the DNC's bot farm that they have. That's why they're so big on fucking you know, I don't know, controlling fucking Twitters and all that shit, controlling the
Yeah, but you know, it's absolute nonsense. You think these people have, you know, baseless reasons to hate Trump just because, you know, fucking the View told them to, right? But then you got like Obama, the motherfucker, you know, set the country on a course that we're currently seeing the repercussions of, and droned out an American citizen with his 16-year-old fucking son. And you know, he's Black Jesus, and you know, you never heard about Republicans besides Rand Paul come out and say, hey, you know, we need to prosecute this dude. He's killing American citizens. And then even today in the Supreme Court hearing, you heard the Democrat attorney, when that was brought up by Kavanaugh, I believe, you know, you know, if that was prosecutable, this isn't. And the dude went on to basically say, like, there was no crime committed there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
There
Like,
wasn't a crime, so it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a crime to drone out American citizens and their underage kid.
Right. But Trump telling people to make their voices heard peacefully, ooh, lock him up.
Yep. He needs to die in prison. Like, I mean, if you seriously think that if one out of almost 80 years, Trump never committed a crime, and now all of a sudden he's this massive fucking criminal with 91 indictments, and then previous presidents for 247 years didn't commit, you know, acts that could have been prosecutable after leaving office, and it just never happened in that entire span until now, and you think that that's copacetic? Like, fuck, head checks on you. Yours the problem.
Right. Well, speaking of somebody that is the problem, Katie Habbs vetoes bills on school showers, residency for voting, squatters, and more. All right. So just real quick, just touch on the subject. So the abortion ban, the 1864 abortion ban from the Hal Code, that was repealed. All right. And so basically the whole reason that it was, you know, on such a hang up was because the Democrats kept trying to add in extra provisions. Basically, they're trying to add in provisions for things like mental health, right? If it's going to affect the mother's mental health, then that would also be eligible to go past the 15-week ban. That would be eligible to you know, basically go beyond, right? And so that was the whole basis that was really kind of holding up the Republicans getting on board with repealing the abortion ban, because of course they did, you know, agree to the 15-week ban while Doug Ducey was still in office. And he went ahead and signed that into law. But of course, the whole hang up was the fact that we still had this 1864 ban in place, and we did not have anything that allowed for abortion in Arizona. So basically, all that needed to be done was they needed to repeal the 1864 law in order to make it to where you know, the 15-week ban could actually be put into effect. But the part I was just saying while you were away was basically the part that was holding it up is the Democrats were trying to slip in a provision for mental health, right? So they could go past that 15-week ban if it's going to affect the the life of the mother or the child, or the mental health of the mother as well. So that's
They
what they're
didn't,
trying to sneak in.
and they didn't learn from Roe, and that's the whole reason why they tried to question, like, we can kill kids up to the day of birth, and that right there is what got the whole hearing rolling, that got Roe overturned. Like, you guys quit trying to fucking destroy shit and add your little riders in, and everything would just be copacetic like it's been for fucking decades. You know what I mean? It's the old comic. The government breaks your leg and then taxes you for a crutch and tells you what a good job they did. That's what the Democrat Party does. They fuck shit up, and then they scream victim and blame the right. They're fascists and fucking.
All right. Yep. You stop trying to make Moloch fucking happen. It's not gonna fucking happen, you guys. It's not gonna be a thing. Stop sacrificing goddamn children. Psychos.
They want stem cells, man.
Hey, what was it?
They want some stem cells.
Right.
Right.
So how do you think they're keeping the big guy alive? How do you think they're keeping him in such spry shape?
You can see Katie Hobbs is lagging, dude. Like, she looks like she's aged 10 years in the
Right.
last 2.
Right. She need to get that fucking butch dyke cut back again, right? You get just fucking full silver hair, silverback gorilla. See, so Democratic Governor Katie Hobbs quashed another 10 measures Tuesday sent to her by the Republican-controlled legislature, including, so the Republican-controlled legislature, right now we have a majority of 1 in both fucking chambers, in the House and the Senate, basically, in Arizona.
A good little tidbit on that, though. Arizona, as far as the state's concerned, we actually increased the Republican voter roll this year by over 230,000.
Fuck yeah. That's what I say. I hope it seems like we're going, things are tipping in the right direction. I just the problem is Arizona's government. Arizona is, as we know, has had quite a few issues with the conducting of elections over the last several elections, right? And they haven't fixed shit. They haven't fixed a fucking thing. And everything they try to fix, Katie Hobbs fucking vetoes, right? So that's one of them I think that we're going to see here. So legislation that could have barred students from other states attending college in Arizona from voting in elections here, right? So basically, if you live in California and you come to the University of Arizona, but you still your driver's license says California, and you fucking vote in California, you shouldn't be allowed to fucking vote in Arizona too, right? That's what they're trying to fucking ban. And Katie, I was no. We're partners with California. We're butt buddies. We're like this, you guys.
She's a transplant from California, and she's over here trying to pull a fucking Gavin Newsom.
Right. They're trying to fucking secede from the rest of the fucking desert people, man. Everybody out here used to be fucking cowboys and fucking wranglers and shit like that. Like, now all we got is Tombstone. That's a fucking tourist attraction. But let's see, defining who can shower with whom in public schools, right? So that was another, I believe it was called the Women's Rights Bill, the Women's Bill of Rights, something like that. But yeah, she vetoed that one too, which would basically, it would define what is a woman in the courts of Arizona, right? So of course you already knew she's gonna veto that one. So setting up new procedures to deal with squatters invading homes. And of course, squatters' rights. California is all about that shit. So of course, so goes California, so goes Arizona. So requiring, all right, fucking old scabies. See, requiring enhanced sentences for those convicted of multiple incidents of organized retail theft. All right, so organized retail theft. So I did look into that. What they consider organized retail theft, and a lot of the stuff that they're doing, beyond, obviously fucking organized retail theft in the way of fucking smash and grabs and all that type of stuff. But it also includes basically continued not scanning items when you're going through the self checkout. checking your fucking self out, when you're going and working for the store that you're paying money to buy food from. Yeah, if you continuously don't scan an item, they gonna fucking get you for organized retail theft. They gonna lock your ass up unless you work at the county jail, right? That's a whole nother thing. There's actually a whole fucking thing about that. One of the workers at one of the guards at the county jail here got busted for organized retail theft. And I looked into it, and it was basically for that, for basically they put together a whole timeline of times that he skipped scanning groceries and shit like that. And basically they came after him, but the local district attorney refused to charge him.
Of course.
Right. And of course he kept his job. He continued or no. Actually, it was the other way around. All right. So he kept his job, and well, after being charged with organized retail theft, right? So he got charged with organized retail theft, and the whole controversy was on the jail for allowing him to basically keep his job guarding inmates where he was likely to be sitting next to them, real soon. But organized retail theft.
So there's dudes in there, I'm sure they're locked up for theft, and they're being guarded by a guy that just got charged with theft, but he gets to be the guard. Like, what the fuck, man?
Yep. Fucking
the woods sound great. I'm telling you, dude. I would love to move to the woods. I live out in the desert now, but the woods would be even better, man. Some more easily self-sustainable environment, man.
Yeah. But Hobbs found more areas of agreement with GOP lawmakers than disagreements on Tuesday, signing 12 measures. Still, the same day's vetoes brought the number of bills she has rejected this legislation to 52, right? 52 bills that she's vetoed so far. House Bill 2581, the measure that could have affected students voting, was being pushed by Rep. John Gillett. The Kingman Republican said there is no clear standard in the state law when someone becomes a, quote, resident that can create problems during determining the rights and responsibilities of an individual, he said. He cited an email he got from a snowbird who normally lives in Pennsylvania. Gillett said they got into an accident and was questioned about why she didn't have an Arizona driver license. The problem, he said, is laws on who is a resident conflict. For example, the Motor Vehicle Code says individuals have to register their vehicles to get an Arizona license immediately if they work here other than a seasonal agricultural job, register to vote, or place children in public schools without paying the tuition rate of a non-resident. Mojave County Assessor Janine Kenich told lawmakers there is no other issue, such as when someone who has a house here entered to special treatment, like an assessment freeze available to some seniors. Ditto, who is entitled to have a home in Arizona designated as a primary residence. Gillette said his bill would have standardized that by defining resident as someone who has actual physical presence in the state for at least 181 days with intent to remain. All right. But Alex Galota said that he sees a different motive. This is designed to keep college students from voting in Arizona, said the state director of all young voting is local, said it would override existing laws that allow individuals to register to vote 29 days before the election. Gillette acknowledged the measure could have prevented a student from registering to vote in Arizona, but he said that that's not his primary concern. That's heartburn on the left. He said they live with their parents, Gillette said, of students from out of state, but they're on vacation to school, essentially. He said those students should cast an absentee ballot in their home state. All right. I agree.
Yep.
All right. But Gillette noted the exception of his legislation that 181-day rule. For example, Gillette said someone could show an intent to be a resident by taking certain actions like getting a job, buying or renting residential property, or enrolling children in a school district or charter school. And if the individual met one of the conditions of showing residency, that 181-day requirement to register to vote would not apply. All right. So basically, if you show that you're actually planning on staying here, but I don't know, and things like getting a job and stuff like that. I mean, people could fucking work remotely and shit. And in fact, that's what a lot of people from California are doing. It's basically everybody that has money in Silicon Valley and shit. They all abandoned that fucking place, but they still technically work there, right? They just work from their fucking computer wherever the fuck they move to, and they just still basically register as they're working out of California, right? They just don't work together anymore, right? That's why, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so there's a whole bunch of different ways that somebody could go around showing intent. All right. I mean, that's the whole thing with squatters and shit like that. Basically, all they do is see, I have a bill right here saying that I had some work done here. Now I live here, and their whole thing with showing intent and shit like that. It could be a slippery slope type thing. Of course, that would be something that needs to have the details hammered out and all this and that. But ultimately, it doesn't matter because Katie Hobbs vetoed it. But Galota said it shouldn't be necessary for those who move here and want to participate in voting to have to take any of those actions to be considered a resident and be entitled to cast a ballot. It's very likely they can't even meet the expectations, he said. He said it's not just about students. Even snowbirds who move here from wherever, they're not eligible to vote until they establish that they're eligible to vote, Galota said. Hobbs in her veto message agreed. This bill creates additional unnecessary barriers for individuals registering to vote, she wrote. Of course it does. She wouldn't want to have fucking barriers that, register you to vote. Why would Katie Hobbs want anything like that? She might not get fucking reelected.
Yeah, because obviously that's the only people they're going to be fucking voting for is her fucking fellow Californians and retarded ass college kids that are being churned out by the Frankfurt School.
Yep. And now having a shower with trannies. Right. See, so school showers. The vetoed legislation on showers was the latest bid by Senator John Kavanaugh, a Republican from Fountain Hills, to address the questions of transgender students attending public schools. His first proposal, going back a decade, would have made it a crime for someone to enter a restroom or locker that did not match the person's biological gender. That bill went nowhere. Last year, Kavanaugh was back with a plan to say that a public school must provide a reasonable accommodation to any person who is for any reason unwilling or unable to use a multi-occupant restroom or changing facility designated for their sex. That was defined to include any single occupancy or employee restroom or changing facility. It precluded any facility designed for use by individuals of the opposite sex, while persons of the opposite sex are or could be present. Hobbs vetoed that last year, calling it yet another discriminatory act against the LGBTQ plus IA youth. Actually, you got to say it more like Katie Hobbs. Yet another discriminatory act against the LGBTQ plus youth. All right, fucking scaby Hobbs. See, so Kavanaugh was back this year with Senate Bill 1182, which narrowed the scope of the law to showers, defining sex as determined by anatomy, physiology, genetics, and hormones existing at the time of the person's birth. That pretty much narrows it down, doesn't it? So it is inappropriate for a 15-year-old female high school co-ed to have to stand next to a 20-year-old biological male who identifies as female in the same shower, Kavanaugh said during the Senate vote. Obviously, most people could agree with that. But Hobbs said it was no more acceptable than what she rejected last year. Right? So obviously, Katie Hobbs is completely fucking unreasonable. See, as I have said time and time again, I will not sign legislation that attacks Arizonans. So it's basically she equating Arizonans with fucking trannies. Go fuck yourself, Katie Hobbs. Go back to
Right.
California, you fucking weirdo. But, yeah, I don't know. What's your thoughts on that, man? I mean, I don't think you got to worry about who's going to be showering with your kids and shit. But
I think my thoughts on that are fucking. We need to move the governorship just like the head executive, and you got to be born in the state to be the fucking governor.
Right.
How about that, you fucking cunt? Yeah. But
piece of shit.
absolutely disgusting. Of course, like you said, she's totally unreasonable. On top of being unsufferable, and if it's not woke, she's gonna veto it. If it doesn't further degeneracy and deviance, she's not for it, man. And she
Right.
shows that time and time again. And to me, this is even worse than nullifying the voter integrity shit. I mean, this is trying to poison the mind of children.
I honestly think that she's actually like dumb, like an act, like basically it's like an actor, like that's why whenever she does
Like
interviews,
AOC.
even worse, I think AOC is at least is able to fucking rally her people. Like,
But I meant she's literally an actress that was
right,
brought in.
right,
You know what I mean?
yeah, like it's just straight from fucking California and shit. Like I forget where her background was. I'm pretty sure she was a social worker, and then of course she was a Secretary of State. But again, I'm not too sure. I don't necessarily remember. I know she was Secretary of State for her own fucking election, but yeah, I honestly think that she just gets her orders directly from California. And my biggest clue to that was the fucking hair discrimination bill. I do like less than 3% of Arizona is black or has fucking ethnic hair as it's put. Why do you need to sign an executive order to make sure that their hairstyles are protected in the workplace, right? Like what's the fucking point of that? Like who, like I don't know. Obviously I think she just gets her shit directly from California, because I believe that they have a very similar law on their books. So yeah, I think she's just a plant.
It's absolutely stupidity at its finest with that type of shit. Like especially the hair act. Like I mean I'm white and I've had to cut my hair for jobs. I've had to
Right.
shave. I've had different shit. I mean there's different. They'll scream. If you get banned on social media, it's the private companies. But God forbid someone makes you wash your fucking hair or cover it or trim it or you know what I mean. Whatever the case is. I mean,
Right.
it's a private company. You're representing my shit. I don't want some nasty ass, fucking greasy ass, fucking dreadlocks over my shit, black
Right.
or white. How about that?
Shit,
You know what I mean?
we got a standard here.
Right. I mean, fuck In-N-Out Burger. You can't have visible tattoos. Is that fucking racism still? You know what I mean?
All right. Just because the color of my skin has been made multi-pigmented, it's not. But all right, so another one that she vetoed was squatters' rights, or was a bill on squatters. So the bill on squatters, SB 1129, was crafted by Senator Wendy Rogers. The Flagstaff Republican said existing laws allowing a homeowner to evict a tenant are inadequate to deal with the situation where homeless people have invaded someone's home and wrecked the premises. It would set up a situation where police acting on an owner's affidavit could immediately go in and have someone evicted. But it drew concerns for some Democrats who feared it could be used in domestic violence situations to kick someone out of the house. Don't they like kicking people out of their houses? Like, especially in domestic situations, don't they like breaking up families? Like, I could have sworn that was their fucking milieu, but I mean, whatever. But yeah, could be used in domestic violence situations to kick someone out of a house. I don't know. I'm confused on that one. I don't see.
Right.
Yeah, but either way, Hobbs agreed with those concerns. She says, quote, this bill fails to leverage this bill fails to leverage existing legal mechanisms, respect the due process rights of lawful tenants, and minimize unintended consequences such as for victims of domestic violence, she said in her veto message. Again, I don't I don't see what angle they're talking about with domestic violence. I mean, like domestic violence, that's like their thing. Like they love fucking seeing women beaten, and so that way thinking they could force the man out of the house, make him pay alimony, make him do what the fuck ever, take his goddamn money. I thought that was like their thing. I don't know why they would be against having extra powers to basically like oh well that family has domestic violence problems. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and evict the husband. The wife and kids could stay. Like that. It seems like that'd be
I think they're
right
more
up their
worried about
alley.
the man. I think they're more worried about the man making out as far as the house is in his name. None of the bills are in his name, and he can call the police like this bitch. Get this bitch out of my house. She don't even live here. You know
Right.
what I mean? I think more along that line there. That's what I got from it, right? But dude, if they're lawful residents, they're going to have some type of situational shit, whether it's a bill in their name, so an ID with that address, yada yada, right? That's going to make you a lawful resident, man. And you would assume that, like most places, like there's a 30-day or what have you, depending on state. That if you've been there consecutively and like your ID's that address again, yada yada, then you would have to go through the legal process. But if it's someone that just pops up and says, I had a fucking door installed, like, no, dude. You know what I mean? Like, you guys
Right.
can go. So this bitch is, as usual, just talking points, talking shit to cover her
Oh yeah.
own, you know, reacts, destructive acts.
Yep. Yep. She just freaking repeat the line.
Yeah.
Pause.
Yeah. But something that may not be popular here, I've actually seen a lot where the squatting shit actually came into play where it was a positive, man. Like Detroit, I worked for HUD for years there. There was over 1 million empty houses in Detroit, and they got squatter laws. But you basically have to come in and show that you're fixing up the house or paying off the back taxes or what have you. And so you actually seen a few. Some of them don't. The majority, well, I'll be real, got turned into fucking drug houses, of course, right? But ones where there was actually shit took place. I mean, it benefited, not only that person but even the area. Obviously,
Yeah.
one nice house in a block it only has 5 habitable. It's going to increase the value slightly. I mean,
Right. Shit. Hey, and at least they're not sleeping and pooping on the streets.
right,
All
right.
right.
They're shooting
Right.
their drugs in a nice warm basement.
All right. Killing 2 legal birds with 1 stone right now. Killing 2 legal birds with 1 abandoned house. Right. Now, of course, the obvious, thing is just the slippery slope. Do you think fucking you let one bum sleep in somebody's house, they're all gonna do it.
Yeah, it's the ones where, the person's on fucking vacation and they come back and, there's some
Right.
chick done moved into the joint. Like, this is my joint, man.
Right. Fucking syringes all sticking out of the fucking carpet and shit. Like,
Mhm.
I
Or in
live
New
here.
York, they find the chick in a fucking duffel bag after she called the cops to try to get the squatters out of her house. A few days later, they find her chopped up in a duffel bag and shit. It's a good time.
Yeah. Fucking insane. But see the other veto, let's see, retail theft. The measure on organized retail theft, SB 1414, was a bid to curb what retailers said is an increasing number of incidents where individuals are shoplifting, not strictly to get items for personal use, but as part of crime rings for resale. Backers said it enhanced penalty up to 7.5 years in prison and $150,000 fine was designed to deter the practice. Yeah, Hobbs, however, said she wants to wait for the findings of the Organized Retail Task Force, saying its recommendations could provide balanced policies for this matter. I disagree.
Right. What does she consider imbalanced policies? Like a fucking, a California? Well, it's
Yeah.
okay as long as you steal under $900.
Yep. That's exactly what she's thinking. That is exactly what she's thinking. Like, well, we have to decide exactly what constitutes organized retail theft.
Right. And the
Yeah.
whole left is saying, like, if you kill a burglar, you value your stuff more than human life. Like, no, that burglar valued my stuff more than their fucking life, man.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just. And this is supposed to be Wild Wild West out here. This is
Right.
open carry, fucking, get off my property or I'll shoot you in the face. And this chick saying, well, we should just let people steal and sleep in your doorways.
So,
Shower with your daughter.
little side note, that rancher that shot the illegal immigrants on his yard, on his property, so far the jury came back with a mistrial. All right, so he's probably going to end up getting tried again. We'll see how it goes the next time, but this first time around, it resulted in a mistrial, so we'll see how it goes. So just real quick side note on that. But other vetoes of Katie Hobbs was SB 1340, prohibiting the investment of public funds in any state-owned or company domiciled with a foreign adversary as determined by the U.S. Secretary of Commerce under federal law. This includes China, Cuba, Iran, North Korea, Russia, and Venezuelan politician Nicolas Maduro. Yeah, fucking all these countries and that one specific politician. It's got to be quite an honor, right? It would also bar putting money into a bank that has a principal place of business in a foreign adversary. So of course she's gonna veto that one. It's China, friends with China. China's
Not just
success
that, Maduro.
is our success.
That's why he's the head of Venezuela, man. You know what I mean? That's a socialist fucking utopia, right? Where they're eating their dogs and wiping their ass with fucking leaves and stuff. Good times.
You gotta make sure we leave the fucking door open for business with that guy. See, so SB. Go ahead.
Like Bernie said, dude, people think red lines are a bad thing.
Right.
Red lines are a good thing.
Everyone gets bread. I don't know what the problem. Okay, so SB 1060, which would have given candidates for federal office the ability to send an observer to watch the ballot counting process. This is now limited to those designated by political parties. All right. So, don't quote me, but I believe that the way that our elections are basically the votes are counted with any sort of oversight is basically each party sends a delegate to oversee it. That's about it, and it's just on the local state thing. So, yes, this would allow federal candidates and federal elections to go ahead and send down their person to go ahead and observe the counting too. Like I say, anything involving elections and making our elections more transparent and free and fair as
Oversight, integrity.
as opposed to fucking what Chris Mays calls free and fair as the last few elections that we've had. To make them actually free, fair, transparent, give people confidence that their vote is actually counting. Everything that has to do with that, she is vetoed. SB 2328 would have allowed mobile food vendors to set up on private property in residential areas, something now prohibited. Representative Kevin Payne, a Republican from Peoria, said it included safeguards, including requiring the permission of the property owner who would have to remain at the site. All right, so shutting down small businesses everywhere. Down to the smallest. Right. So these ones will be new laws. Among the measures Hobbs signed are SB 1063, allowing political signs to be erected 71 days before an election. This is up from 45 days. You're getting real change done here, you guys. Getting real things done for the people of Arizona. Right. SB 1196, permitting off-duty police officers who are working on private traffic control duty to have red and blue lights on a vehicle. Again, the most important stuff she's making sure goes through. Nothing to do with the elections or small businesses, shit like that. But see, we got this one too. SB 2637, letting the Arizona State Parks Board use certain funds to purchase drones to clean plastic, algae, and other floating trash from lakes and waterways. Like in Green New Deal. And SB 1063, creating the Arizona-Ireland Trade Commission.
Fuck?
Right. I'm drawing a fucking blank too. I have no idea what the fuck that even is, man. But it's a law now.
They're calling their cattle. They need to buy fucking beef.
Right. Yeah. So making sure that only the important stuff goes through. definitely making sure that we could still do business with people like Venezuela, China, Cuba, Iran, North Korea, and Russia. That's important. But yeah, fucking ridiculous, man. Good old Scaby Hobbs. Yeah, this bitch.
Dude, I don't give a shit if they here's the elections. I just can't believe that fucking even with the retardedness you see across the interzones, that our countrymen are this bad off mentally that these people were legitimately elected, man. Seriously.
Right. Well, especially
And-
Katie Hobbs. But
and-
don't worry, man.
I can never make sense too how she was the Secretary of State. How the fuck people do that? You're gonna elect like a Republican governor and then put a bunch of Democrats under him so he can't do shit. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, why the fuck would you do that?
People are fucking idiots. Say people don't pay attention to the small ones. Everybody just president, fucking people fucking half people don't even know they're state senators. Like people just don't even understand how our system works. That's why they're over here screaming about democracy and all this and that type shit. And fucking you didn't win the popular vote, like. Well, like good thing. That's not how our fucking elections work, right? But yeah. So not to worry though, because as soon as she oversaw her own election, and basically there was some discrepancies here and there. There's a couple issues here and there. Don't worry, she went ahead and assigned somebody to go ahead and investigate our election integrity. That's actually one of the first acts that she did when she got into office. And the person that she went ahead and assigned to go ahead and investigate that election to make sure everything was hunky-dory was the governor. Yep. She created an extra office for the governor to oversee, to make sure that elections are, running smoothly with integrity. So don't worry, everything's going to be okay. And nothing to worry about in Arizona.
It's a foolproof system, man.
Right. Trump's got such a lead, man. He can't lose at this point. We'll see, man. The one thing I see when I see people doing like poll analysis, like the main streamers and stuff like that doing poll analysis, is they seem to keep counting Arizona as a given. Like oh yeah, Arizona's fucking 5 points ahead in Trump's favor. Like Trump's definitely taking Arizona. Like that's not necessarily true. Especially with, dude, I do not trust our elections for shit. Like I'm fucking as soon as I fucking send out my ballot, because I do mail mine in. I'll admit it. And of course, shit, that's probably the best thing to do nowadays, especially because of the fact that our machines don't go fucking burr anymore when you put your ballot in there. And now basically it's, don't worry, just drop it in this box. We promise we'll count it. Yeah, go fuck off me.
Yeah, and then Chris May's here, she'll take you to court to try to sue to make sure your vote doesn't get counted.
All right.
So, she can squeak in there to destroy your state.
Yep. So yeah, don't fucking count Arizona as a given. I mean, if anything, take those 5 points ahead and maybe knock off about 3, maybe even 4, because of fucking who's, it doesn't matter, who can vote. What matters is who gets to count the vote. Count the vote. Count the votes.
Right. Yeah, and never let that morale get too high. You know what I'm saying? Like, you still got to vote. Even if they're like, he's 17 points ahead.
Right.
Still. You know what I mean? Because you got a lot of people that are like, oh, he's got it in the bag. I'm sure a lot with the killer, he felt the same way in 2016. She was running at like a 90%, right? And you've seen you've seen the end result of that. So keep that in mind. And even if you're not a big fan of the whole two-party, I got friends that are like, I'm not voting because it's an illusion of choice. It's one or the other. Yeah, and you're right.
And you get one of these. Get one of these
It's
fancy stickers here.
I got 2 of them. And it's it's fucking it's Make America Great Again or Death to America.
Yeah, I think really a lot of that it has to come from people just understanding how our fucking system works. It really is kind of funny that people that immigrate here through legal means know 10 times as much as the average fucking American about how our system works. You know what I mean? Because of the fact that they got to take more fucking civics tests than the average high school student. Like, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, considering the fact that a free nation can only be founded on people that all basically abide by the same sort of civic virtue. You know, the people that have the same sort of shared, civic identity, the same, morals, the same moral values. And that's basically why, this whole multiculturalism that we have going on in America, this so-called American experiment that everybody says has always been a fucking thing here in America, even though it's really been a 95% white country up until just about the last few fucking decades or so. But either way, this whole social experiment that we have going on here, it's obviously not working too well, and that's
and it's not just here; it's across the West as a whole, man.
Yeah. Fucking Europe, Australia. So go ahead and switch over into Australia too right now, man. Fucking Australia, it's as we just saw, a priest. I'm not sure, what order, denomination, anything like that he's from, but clearly a priestly looking fellow got knifed down by what is clearly a Islamic looking teen over there in Australia. Of course, the videos have gone viral across the internet, and the Australian government is going after Elon Musk to take them all down, right? So keep in mind that this video is on YouTube, it's on fucking TikTok, it's on all of these other, video platforms, it's on fucking Rumble. They're singling out Elon Musk, which really kind of lets you know their fucking motives, right? It's not about the video, it's about control, right? So Elon Musk went ahead and put out a tweet basically saying, well, if I let you have that, then you'd basically be controlling the internet. You'd basically be controlling, what goes on the internet. And not to mention the fact that the videos would be on American servers. You really have no jurisdiction or right to anything. He also did geofence the video off to people in Australia, so people in Australia aren't even able to see the video. But the Australian government is going full out on basically internet censorship right now, right? I don't know, what's your opinion on the internet censorship? What's your opinion on the whole situation?
Well, the whole situation, Pastor Mari there, dude, he is great. He's a head cracker. I've never been one to be, too religious or, attend a lot of church service. But if I could listen to this dude talk, I would be there every fucking Sunday. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He's more than just a pastor. He's a philosopher and really lays it on. I'm glad he's all right. Yeah, but the whole thing, of course, like you said, it's the product of this forced social experiment of we're going to overwhelm your country with people that don't have aligned views, beliefs, or morals, and we'll see what happens. And it seems to be an ever occurring thing. It never stops. It only gets worse. I mean, like I said, it's getting to the point where you're having politicians and pastors and yada yada attacked. And this pastor's famous around the planet. This isn't just some guy at a little local church. I mean, you can see clips of his shit on my social media. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's pretty rough shit. And then the censorship, of course, you have what is the prime minister there absolutely gloating that he was removing people that once he started the whole censorship campaign, then he started censoring people that were talking shit on the fact that he was started a censorship campaign, and then he was gloating on the fact that he was getting them removed from the inner zones and shit. I mean, these are just straight up fucking lizard people. You've seen how it was during the C-19 lockdown. This was one of the worst places where they were helicoptering in police to jump out, on the beach where you're by yourself for miles. I mean, just, terrible place. While it's beautiful, it's one big ass LA. Crazy, outrageous to live there, overbearing police, horrible firearm restrictions, so on and so forth, an Orwellian fucking hellhole. And this is what happens when you give up your guns, man.
Yep. They're coming for your guns too, just so you guys know. All right. So
They are.
close. Yeah, yep. And if I can, obviously, the world is shifting right now. I mean, not the world itself. I mean, possibly. I don't know. I'm not a geologist, but the 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 minds of humanity is shifting right now, right? Human values seem to be shifting right now. Basically, there seems to be an entire reordering of the entire world, right? And of course, when things like this happen, when major catastrophic events like this take place, of course, people are going to get afraid, right? And so, what do people do when they're afraid? They look to the people close to them. So, I think this might be a kind of contributing to the resurgence of basically the principles that America was founded on, and then of course back to the other different nations. They're getting back to a more civilizationalist or just a more nationalist or more populist kind of sentiment. Because I think basically everybody in the world kind of feels it right now, except for the blind fucking people that are here in America. But I think a lot of people are starting to see it, and I think that's really what's kind of leading to a lot of the Trump derangement syndrome. Because really the what it would look like with the more multipolar world really is something that Donald Trump is more adept to, right? And I think that's basically what shifted, right? So I think a lot of people, a lot of other nations and stuff like that have been used to dealing with America post World War II with all of our leaders since then, which have always basically just been, might is right. Fucking, we got the atom bomb. What are you guys going to do? Everybody get in line. Basically, it's been a unipolar world with, basically the West with the NATO allies and all that type of stuff too. So basically, Trump being the first kind of I guess person to shift that norm and basically kind of go over to these people that have been our historic enemies and stuff like that, people that have been outright threatening us, and basically be able to go over there and negotiate peace with these types of people. Because everywhere else except for America, a lot of these people either rise to power through fucking blood and violence, or through really mainly through fucking blood and violence. That's it seems kind of the way it goes in other countries and shit. But really, America's had it fucking easy. So basically, as you see now with all of our current politicians, they're all fucking idiots. They all just go along with the fucking flow. Wherever the fucking donor is holding the dollar over their head, they'll follow. That's the only thing that they can think of, right? Yeah. But when you get a true statesman to actually lead the country in a geopolitical way, it shifts things, right? It seemed like he was being more, I guess, fair to the rest of the world by not making the rest of the world dependent on America, by basically kind of forcing the rest of the world to have to go back to their roots to develop. Right. And so I think that's basically what has brought about this whole shifting. And I think that's why the Trump deranged fucking government that we have right now, the Trump derangement establishment that we have going on right now, they see that coming. And that basically means the end of their fucking way of life, because you either got to get smart and learn how to fucking actually negotiate with other countries rather than just sending in fucking, black ops people to go ahead and handle shit in the middle of the night. But it's basically, I think that's kind of what's shifted a lot of the whole political world right now. Yeah, I personally think it's a good thing, obviously, but I think that's what's going on.
I look at it as just a natural reaction, right? The third world, always been a hot mess, always at war. You got some that's rising out of the ashes a little bit, but entangling themselves with the wrong countries, right? Mainly, I'm speaking of BRICS. But across the West as a whole, we've been experimented on. It's been one big social experiment for about the last 2 decades. You're seeing the repercussions of it, and anytime anything's pushed to an extreme in one direction, the actual, the natural reaction to that is, for the balance to go to the opposite direction. And the left across the West has done that. They've more than overstepped, more than pushed to the point of destroying people's futures and shit like that. And people have realized it. and the corruption has come out in the open across the West, but the persecution of right wing, political pundits or figures. I mean, that's in Germany, it's in France, it's in Brazil, it's in fucking Italy. You know what I mean? Where they've tried to debank, press charges on them, impeach him, or like Geert Wilders' stance, where he basically can't even put together a coalition because the other branches of the political parties refuse to work with him. You know what I mean? Shit like that. And I think people are just sick of that. While again they're spending us into oblivion and trying to tax you more to cover those losses, which they can't. You know what I mean? It's they're spending way more than they're taking in, but yet the only repercussions you're getting from that is destruction and war on the other side of the planet. And so I think it's just a natural reaction that people start moving toward the right. It's pretty much throughout history when the left oversteps its bounds. It's just you got to stay on that hope that it doesn't go too far, because obviously, again, it can go to the extreme in either direction. And the right's extreme is not cutting dicks off and jailing political opponents. It's fucking murdering everybody. You know what I'm saying? That in history, that it tends to be.
Yep. Yeah. Definitely crazy times we're living through right now, man.
Yeah.
This next year is going to be absolutely pivotal. It's definitely going to. This next year is going to be fucking everything. As we've already been talking about for the whole year already, and including last year, basically this election changes things.
Yeah, and you already see they're using the same tactics. You know what I mean? They even have some trying to say COVID's coming back, and then the other ones was bird flu, and then Summer of Love obviously began. Instead of BLM, it's Palestine's, and every time there's someone that has melanin in their skin, a little more melanin count, they immediately try to turn it into a George Floyd situation. I mean, they're literally just trying to use the same tactics over and over. And of course, the Russia arguments resurfacing again. You've recently heard even Pelosi on a national interview talking about Russia, 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 and same tactics. And you're going to see there's going to be a class of people, even ones you may have respect for and like, love, what have you, that are going to fall for it, just like they did last time. It's Orange Hatler's this.
Yep. Yeah, like I said, we just hope it's as long as we can hope that it's just a small smidge of a percentage more that you ain't gonna get me again, motherfucker. And like I said, like we're seeing with as long as a lot of people in America, like I said, it doesn't even take a lot. There's already a lot of people in America that already feel that way. As long as we get a few more people to shift over to the same sentiment as that fucking New York fucking union worker and shit. If I could, it's Donald Trump's turn. Fuck you, Joe Biden. So we can get more people to just think that, then we got this. And then they say all they have left is fucking lawfare and assassination. So we'll see the way it goes.
Hence the reason they're trying to put forth bills to remove his Secret Service detail if he's found guilty, because they want him dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. Freaking the age of information, though, man. Like I said, I've said it before. I'll say it again, man. They couldn't handle the internet. That's why I said I think fucking Elon Musk, he was a game changer in a lot of this. Just the ability to fucking share what's actually going on. To the point where people objectively can't try and fucking argue like, yeah, this looks bad. This is all bad. That's thanks to the fact that a lot of these stuff wasn't able to be suppressed in the way that it was before. Alex Jones was right.
Right. Again.
Yep. But all right, man, it's getting pretty late. You got anything else you want to add on before we head out?
Good, dude. Good show. Good time. Thanks everybody for stopping in. Appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Check out the links below. We got this guy's other channels. We also got the eBay store. I got different shirts, not this shirt, but I got, Liberty Bowl shirts. I got, different cups, a couple different things on there. But yeah, check out the links. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I don't know what the fuck I just said right there, if those are even words, but let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Like, subscribe, share, and as always, fuck off.